Are we live? Can people hear us and see us?
Hey.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
Wow.
I
forgot my lipstick.
I know this has been a thing. Welcome to the Katie Halper Show, everyone. I'm Katie Halper, and here with me is Nando Vila.
How's it going?
Good, you?
Good.
And we're here gathered here today to talk about the news, to talk about politics, and we have two great guests. Not one, but two great guests. Ready? We got joining us state senator, as in someone with power.
Wow.
Julia Salazar.
She's not just like us. She's not just tweeting all day like us. You know, she's actually passing laws and shit. Like, you know, like writing the law.
Right.
What do they even do? How do they even do that?
I don't know. Cuneiform or something. But yeah, we tweet truth to power. She speaks and legislates truth to power. Right. And then we have on Ken Klippenstein, who I thought was, by the way, was Jewish and is not. But that's cool. I'm still happy to have him on the show.
He's like one of these people from the future where you can't tell where he's from. Just by looking at him or his name. You can't even tell his gender. You can't tell anything.
It's called genocide resistance. I don't know. I'm just thinking it's a built-in genocide resistance thing. So my phone dropped, so I'm gonna get out of screen for a second and grab my phone. Nando, can you handle this? Tell people. You want to share with them that Barcelona thing? I mean, share with them whatever you want. It's gonna take me 10 seconds. Okay, go.
Well, F-Funk, you ask, is Nando short for Fernando? And the answer is yes. My real name is Fernando. My middle name is Duncan, weirdly. And my last name is,
Wow, I guess we got to dunk on you for that one.
Hey.
Fernando Duncan Vila?
Duncan. And then my full last name is Rodriguez-Vila.
Vila.
But it's just too long. It's too unwieldy, so I go by Nando Vila.
It's too unwieldy. Yeah, that's a good idea. Everyone grab their drinks if they want some drinks. What do you got? Do you have like a water bottle? Oh, he's so annoying. He's so LA.
I got my kombucha tea.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Do you have a shake? Do you want it? We can hold on if you need to like use the blender for something with wheatgrass.
Yeah. My protein powder.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're very excited. And the first order of news is that we have some breaking news, which I did not know about, which Nando informed me about. Do you want to break it or should I break it? This is a very collaborative show.
It's your show.
It's my show. All right. Yeah. Okay. So you guys, you may have noticed the absence of a dear MSNBC host who goes by the name of Chris Matthews.
Yeah.
We lost him. Funnily enough, it really wasn't because he compared Bernie Sanders to a Nazi invasion.
It was part of it.
That was part of it. What was it? He compared it to.
He's like, these Bernie supporters wear like the brown shirts.
Brown shirts, right? He compared it to the brown shirts. No, that was Chuck Todd. I believe Chris Matthews compare.
Oh yeah, he goes. He was like,
good,
it reminds me of World War II as a French general. It was like, after the Nazis passed the Maginot Line, they were like, we can't do anything to defend it. We can't do anything to stop them. And that's Bernie. He's a Nazi passing the Maginot Line.
Right. Bernie was the Nazis invading France. That was what his winning one of the caucuses was.
Was the fall of France,
Yeah, the fall of France. Then he was afraid that Bernie was maybe like Fidel Castro and there were going to be executions in Central Park.
Yeah. And I don't support the Reds. I'm anti-Fidel Castro.
I know, that was amazing. That was great. The Reds. Yeah, we should probably play some of his greatest hits, honestly. But then he farted in an interview.
Oh,
Fartgate.
Yeah. Well, so he's just like, he was losing it. I think the bosses were like, listen, man, we can tolerate you comparing Bernie Sanders to literal Hitler, but farting on national TV is a little too much for us. So
yeah.
Get out of here.
I agree. Yeah. But you know what's sad is that I honestly think that it was because of, not sad, but I don't think anyone cared about that part. I think it really was because of some Me Too stuff that he got into trouble for.
Is this a rumor that you're hearing behind the scenes?
No, I mean the articles that came. There were some articles. It was just weirdly coincidental, I guess, for it not to be. I guess I mean part of this is that I have no faith in MSNBC ever removing people for the right reasons. No, so and he really, I mean, this was very here. Actually, let me play this video because I want, now that we mentioned it. Let me let's hook it up. Okay. You guys want to see the video? Some of Chris Chris Matthews' greatest hits. I just found this out, or else I would have tried to do a montage.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Nando, these are my two favorites. Everyone knows this. I love Chris Matthews, and I love Brian.
Chris Matthews, you're an expert at politics.
You're so good at this, Nando.
You worked for Tip O'Neill. Tell me what you're seeing. Well, Brian's very interesting. Yeah, it's like the Hitler invasion. That's
really good. That's really good. But it's like I can't do it. But Chris Matthews, oh, you worked for Tip O'Neill, the great unifier, as they used to call him. He just sounds so dumb. I can't do the impersonation right, and I realize that the content of my impersonation really sucks too. So just pretend I hadn't done that and rewind back to Nando's good impersonation, and now I'll redeem myself by playing actual footage, which is the only thing I'm apparently good at. Wow, that went dark really fast. Okay, hold on.
Seriously. Foremost, Chris Matthews, I know you as a romantic about American politics. And
it's exactly like what I figured he would be saying.
Exactly.
I happen to know Joy Reid is with you. Ditto. She is a romantic about the American political experience. I am guessing you are both by now
in love
for realists that we're looking at a category that says reallocated preference. The first category is what most people define as voting. What is going on here, and is this any way to pick a nominee?
Whoa.
Well, I don't think so, but it is the way we're picking this one, and it looks like Bernie Sanders is hard to beat right now. I'm with Carville all the way in terms of the dangers of what lies ahead in November. I'm very much aware of them. They're sitting on so much Oppo research on Bernie, what he said in the past about world affairs, how far left he is. I'm not sure how far left he is, but they're going to make the most of that in terms of world politics. They're going to kill him. But I think it's a little late to stop him, and I think that's the problem.
I like that.
By the way, if you look at the pattern, it's dynamic. Bernie won the popular vote in Iowa. He won it again in New Hampshire. It looks like he's going to win it here when they finally get a vote. Bernie's been winning consistently, and I think it's mathematically understandable. Every time we poll, every time Steve and everybody polls,
Kornacki.
2/3 of the Democratic vote, 2/3 of people who call themselves Democrats are either liberal or very liberal. All Bernie ever had to do, and he's done it beautifully, is get a majority of that, and he's up to the mid-30s. If you get half of 67, you're into the mid-30s, and that's where he's gotten a little better. Biden, his only prayer was to consolidate the third of the vote that's moderate and conservative.
Yeah.
And he got nowhere near clearing that field. Nowhere near. That's split up 4 ways now. And so with new people coming in, DeVal Patrick came in, he didn't make it. Bloomberg is in, he's probably going to survive a bit longer because of his money. But that field wasn't cleared. The only way Biden could win in that 1/3 of the vote that's either moderate or conservative is to sweep it. He got nowhere near. Bernie, on the other hand, did his job. He got more than a majority of that 67%. That is the name of the game. It is pretty much over unless that changes. I was reading last night, Brian. I know you're a history guy, too.
Here it is. Here it
I'm
comes.
reading last night about the fall of France in the summer of 1940. And the general, Renault, calls up Churchill and says, "It's over." And Churchill said, "How can it be? You got the greatest army in Europe. How can it be over?" He said, "It's over." So I had that suppressed feeling. I can't be as wild as Carville, but he is damn smart. And I think he's damn right on this one. Joy.
Well, I mean, Chris,
first of all, it's oh my God, it's
heartbreaking.
Like, remember those days? Yeah, those days felt good.
I mean,
they weren't that long ago.
Honestly, I wish Bernie were. I wish
new NBC poll showing a very tight race.
I honestly wish he had been right. It's kind of like when you have Rudy Giuliani. What did he say about Black Lives Matters? Like it's going to come for your houses, or like he makes it this communist thing. I'm like, that would be great if they had, that program.
It's wild to watch these videos now of like the elite mainstream media just like having a total meltdown over Bernie just steamrolling the field. I mean, given what happened after, man, it's so sad.
I know it is sad. The only thing I'm sad about is that I wish that Nazi invasion.
Well, the Nazis ended up losing.
The Nazis ended up losing in real life, and in this metaphor. I mean, I don't want to. Look, I should reject the whole premise, but I wish Matthews had been right.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. I can't. That just brought a tear to my eye.
I know, when they were so scared.
Yeah, it was great. It felt so good. It just felt so good to watch them squirm. Like people don't understand that half half of Trump's appeal is that he makes people like Chris Matthews and the awful libs like go crazy and burn their hair on fire every time he says something.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I got to admit, it is satisfying to watch them go crazy. Like, obviously, it's more satisfying when Bernie does it.
And it's a good guy, yeah.
But that's a huge part of the appeal because everybody hates these people. Everybody. Like, outside of upscale suburban wine moms, everybody hates all of these people.
Yeah, it's awful, and it's making me sad. I'm remembering all those terrible things when Chris Matthews said that they were going to be executions in Central Park, and Chris Hayes, to his credit, was like, well, no, that's not true. We know where his politics are, because Bernie was trying, and that argument is so disingenuous. He made it, and Joy Ann Reid made it, which is like, well, the right is definitely going to use that. Like, of course they're going to use that. And look at like Hunter Biden. Yeah. And
they're not going to use that one.
Yeah. It's like, it's just so incredibly selective and it's so disingenuous. Like they're just being the realists, right? That Ryan Williams knows them to be. And the idea is
you're romantic about U.S. politics.
He's so annoying. He's the worst. Yeah. So I don't know though. Here's the question: who's worse, Joy Ann Reid on Bernie or
absolutely Joy Ann Reid?
Okay.
Absolutely Joy Ann Reid. 100%. Well, because we have to go back to the whole reason why we watched this video in the first place, which we haven't told, is that there's legitimate breaking news.
Yes. Here's the breaking news. Ready? Drum roll, please. Chris Matthews is being replaced by fellow Bernie hater Joy Ann Reid.
Yes. So everyone was looking at that 7 p.m. time slot at MSNBC. You know, it's prime time. It's the first hour of prime time, but it's still prime time. And it was open. And now it's going to Joy Ann Reid, who in any functioning society would have been expelled from any position of influence or power. I mean, as a journalist, to do what she did and then basically tweet through it, right? I mean, she famously, when she was young, as a blogger for the Miami Herald of all places, she wrote like some insanely homophobic things, which in and of itself is bad. But like, if she would have apologized and moved on, it was legitimately a different era. Like the early 2000s, that kind of thing was just out there a lot more. And I think we should allow for growth from people and all that
evolution,
stuff. Like, it's that's how progress happens. People change, people learn and all that stuff. We shouldn't like cancel her for something that she said when she was young. The problem was that she lied, said that she was hacked
by the Ruskies,
that those blog posts were not written by her. And it's just insane that she was able to get away with that. And then people are just like, yep, I believe it. Let's move on. You know, and now she's being rewarded. I mean, it's just I can't begin to describe like how rotten our supposed meritocracy is when you're a journalist and you're supposed to be pursuing the truth. That is your literal job, is to pursue the best version of the truth that you can get to and inform the millions of people who you have a platform for about the truth. And then to just blatantly lie about something like that. I mean, another one is Brian Williams, right? Who just straight up lied about being shot at while he was on a helicopter, and it was bullshit. And now he's back somehow.
Although, you know what? He did get disciplined. Like he got fired and then rehired.
He got fired. He was the nightly news anchor for NBC, and he was the most watched news anchor in America. And he got removed from that post and replaced with Lester Holt. But it's like a thing. It's like, you know, he got put in timeout, and now he's back hosting a primetime show on MSNBC. And hosts all their main political coverage.
So boring. But the thing that's really on top of that, the sad thing about that whole Brian Williams thing is that what's really pathetic is that he's basically the person who got into the most trouble for any Iraq related lies. Right, like he's the only. I mean,
it's because he got in trouble for stealing valor. You don't get in trouble for killing Iraqis. You get in trouble for stealing troop valor. Like you know, the troops are still sacred, even though like
so if
Trump
you lie and you pretend
made fun of a dead troop's mom, and that should have ended that thing. But you can't steal valor and get away with it. That's much harder to get away with.
Right, exactly. So as long as you could have as much Iraqi blood on your hands as you'd like.
Yeah. I mean, Jeffrey Goldberg published a cover story in which he said that Iraq and Al-Qaeda worked together to do 9/11.
Right.
Which is a total lie. Iraq had nothing to do. Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11. And now he's the editor of The Atlantic, the most prestigious liberal magazine in America. Right.
Which, by the way, came up with broken windows theory.
They came up with that?
The Atlantic was where that piece about broken windows theory was published first, was in The Atlantic.
Oh.
Now, I just want to play. I want to play because we referred to that to Joy Ann Reid. I mean, she's done so much. She's lied and pretended she had been hacked, which really is quite stunning. I mean, it is absolutely stunning.
It's absolutely stunning. I mean, it contributes to the feeling of unreality that so much of us feel in 2020, right? Where like nothing.
The feeling of unreality.
The feeling of unreality that Joy Ann Reid brings to the table is something that she's going to be delivering to you people at the 7:00 hour every night here on this network.
So great. Thank you so much. Really, this is so good. I love it. And I do want to play for people because we're talking about this clip. I think we should play Joy Ann Reid. One of my favorite Joy Ann Reid appearances was when she let's just say she had a real expert on the show. She really went the full distance and
the
decided,
body language.
Yes. So let's look at this. Ready? Oh, by the way, I'll get back. Thank you, Lee Levin. I'll get back to that later because I don't want to distract from this. I want to give you the attention you so deserve. Okay, here we go. So we are about to watch Joy Ann Reid do that due diligence, show that professionalism for which we adore her so much. Okay. For which we adore her so much. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
okay.
You got it.
All right. Okay, ready? Can you guys hear this?
Between the two of them.
Could you hear that?
Yeah.
Scandals hurt you more when they seem plausible, right? I mean, Bernie Sanders does have a sort of physicality, when he talks.
Yes. By the way, I forgot to set this up. So this is after Pocahontas. What's her name?
Warren.
Powwow Chow Warren. Elizabeth Powwow Chow. Liz Holio Warren. Big structural Bailey. She basically treated her dog the way Sarah Palin treated her newborn, which was exploitative.
As a political prop, yeah.
As a political prop, and kept him up way past his bedtime. What was his name? Trig? Trig? Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I wonder how
Andrew Sullivan was obsessed with that story, like in a really creepy way.
Like he was on Team Trig?
Yeah, he was like, Trig. Like the Trig was like the biggest political prisoner in America.
So he was anti. Okay, he felt like it was. Yeah, got it. He was on the right.
Palin.
He was on the right side of history, but maybe
he
not
hated Palin
right.
probably for misogyny.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Whoa, Nando, am I gonna have to cancel you?
Probably.
All right, it's okay. I think we should also announce who we want to cancel. Every show we should come up with 5 people. We'll take suggestions from guys. Yeah. If you want to super chat, if you want to pay us, we will take your.
We'll cancel whoever you want.
Yeah, we will cancel the highest bidders. We are mercenaries, and we're willing to cancel whomever.
I'll sell my cancel bullets.
Yeah,
to the highest bidder. I got 5 of them each show.
Yeah. So basically, I got to go back to this. This clip. So this is when Powwow Chow recipe contributor, and that's a reference to when she lied and pretended she was Cherokee, and not just that, as if that's not bad enough, but she stole a recipe that was, I think, French, and contributed to a cookbook called Powwow Chow. And it
was developed in the French and Indian War. Everyone knows that.
Oh, really?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I'm so gullible. Like the ratio of my gullibility to my sarcasm is very. It's
very bizarre. It's part of your charm there.
I guess it is. Yeah. So here is Joy Ann Reid and a body language expert, and they are trying to figure out if Bernie was lying or Elizabeth Warren was lying. Oh wow, that's really hard. One of them has a real interesting, troubled relationship with the truth. The other one is so fucking honest that it's off-putting to some people. Like, show me where Bernie has lied or like said something. I mean, has anyone ever said that he's lied?
No, they've never really
Like,
caught him in
right?
a lie. Yeah, not like that.
Maybe like Sally Albright did, because she's we got to look at her tweets later. I love watching her lose her mind. Okay, you're right. That's trigger warning.
Clip.
Okay, so here's the clip. I just need to set it up. So basically, this is when Elizabeth Warren lied and said that Bernie Sanders had told her that a woman couldn't win, which obviously wasn't what happened. Clearly, I'm sure he was like, look, Trump's going to use whatever he can use. You know, he's a misogynist. He's going to use that. You know.
Which is totally different. Yeah.
Which is totally different. I'm sure that's what he said.
And 1,000% the truth.
And 1,000% truth. I mean, I was waiting for her to say, like, Bernie told me I couldn't win because I'm a Native American.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. He said I couldn't win because I'm too dumb because I'm a woman.
Southern. She's not that Southern, though.
She sometimes talks like that.
Mama?
Yeah.
Mama.
When she talks about like her, Native American past in Oklahoma, she talks like that.
Yeah. You're right. I guess she does. I miss how Hillary Clinton used to do that too. But we'll that's another clip for another time. Okay, yeah. So this is when she lied basically, and Bernie Sanders, during the debate, they totally set him up. It was ridiculous. Bernie Sanders said, "No, I didn't say that to her. I didn't tell her that a woman couldn't win." And then the debate woman was like, "Okay, thank you, Senator Warren. What did you think? What did it feel like when Bernie Sanders said that to you?" It was like unbelievable. So now Joy Ann Reid, because she's such a truth teller, whether it's lying about being hacked by Russians who went into the Wayback Machine somehow, and even though all tech experts say it's impossible, somehow I guess they are pretty devious. They hacked into it.
Someone just tweeted at us that this is the longest setup ever.
I mean, yeah. You're welcome, guys. You're welcome. In fact, someone better get on Super Chat and
this is like a Dragon Ball Z episode.
All right, ready? I'm gonna play it.
All right.
I hope you guys get it.
Shaking your finger at Hillary between the two of them is that scandals hurt you more when they seem plausible, right? I mean, Bernie Sanders does have a sort of physicality, when he talks. That is a shaking your finger at Hillary Clinton, shaking your finger, pushovy, weirdy. His physicality makes me think, he could have said, listen, I think in this environment a woman can't win. That doesn't seem like a crazy
Well, first of all, I think Bernie's lying. We see him; he slouches forward anyway, Joy. But here he turtles. If you look at his eye level, where he normally answers questions, when he makes the denial, his whole shoulders come up like a little kid getting caught. His eye level is below his shoulders. This is trying to hide in plain sight. And many of us, we don't know what to look for. So if you look for this right out of the gate, and the strongest denial is simply saying no. And I think women in particular, we want to believe human beings. So we're like, I would say that. He literally said, well, as a matter of fact, I didn't say it. That's 9 words. Unnecessary. No. Did you vote for Donald Trump in the last election?
Absolutely no.
Right? So no. Did you dress up as an Easter bunny on Easter?
Absolutely no.
Right? So it's no. We say no. Absolutely is actually not the strongest denial. You're playing with me here in the game, but at least you're getting the no in here. We're not hearing the no with Bernie. Also with Bernie, he has numerous hotspots. He says, well. Liars like to start with well. He looks away. He laughs. I think he might have been coached to laugh in this moment. A lot of politicians are coached to laugh in the difficult times. So we're focused on the laughter, and it's supposed to send a message that this isn't serious. It is serious.
First of all, she looks like a fucking seahorse who's about to tip over. Why? Do you see the thing? And look how forward she is. That's not body shaming. There's nothing problematic about that. It's just her position. I don't know why she's doing that. She's so eager to attack.
Katie, you're of the Semitic persuasion, correct?
Yes, I am.
Do you
We're
think
physical?
Yeah. Is this not like
oh my God, it's total. It's ridiculous.
Talking shit about him for finger wagging seems like an anti-Semitic
for his physicality,
and talking shit about him for slouching is like blatant ageism. My God, like look at any old person, they all slouch.
It's ridiculous, right? I know. But here's my favorite part. I don't know if you guys caught this, but Joy Ann Reid is not giving her the answer that she wants, right? Her whole point, Madam Seahorse, her whole point is that
just to say no.
Yeah, you just say no, right? You just say no. And then Joy Ann Reid is like, absolutely not, or absolutely no.
Like,
and she's like, I know you're playing
totally
with
lied.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know. Also, the fact that Joy Ann Reid can just like even begin to judge this and no one's being like, it's kind of inappropriate because you are a documented liar. You shouldn't judge this, but let's just watch that thing again. It's really beautiful. This
Absolutely
part of it
is actually not the strongest denial. But we're like, I would say that. He literally said, well, as a matter of fact, I didn't say it. That's 9 words. Unnecessary. No. Did you vote for Donald Trump in the last election?
Absolutely no.
Right? So no. Did you dress up as an Easter?
She laughed.
Easter?
Absolutely
oh my
no.
God.
So
she was coached to laugh.
She was coached to laugh. We got to watch all the clips where she starts with well.
Katie, you should do like you should just do like an anti-Joy Reid broadcast every single night. Just like fact check her show. And just do like
I need you there, Nando. Look at that. You're the one.
Do the anti-Joy Reid show.
Yeah.
I think you could rack up the views on that one.
Misery Reid.
Yeah.
Misery Reid.
I got it. Yeah, I got it.
No, we say no. Absolutely is actually not the strongest denial.
But you're playing with me.
Playing with me here in the game. But at least you're getting the no in here. We're not hearing the no with Bernie. Also with Bernie, he has numerous hotspots. He says, liars like to start with, he looks away. He laughs. I think he might have been coached to laugh in this moment. A lot of politicians are coached to laugh in the difficult times.
Is she Canadian or Midwestern?
So we're focused on the laughter, and it's supposed to send a message that this isn't serious. It is serious. If he said it, which I believe that he did, he would have been better to just own it. Barack Obama wrote a book years ago, and he said what in the book? He tried cocaine and marijuana, and he never touched the stuff again. We never talked about it when he was president after that. If Bernie just owned it, this would disappear. We wouldn't be talking about it 6 days later.
But Bernie, he did the opposite. He's the
Okay,
our media is the most embarrassing media by far in the world. I mean, it's the thing is, like, with like all these authoritarian regimes in which they have state media and stuff, they're embarrassing, but it's like understandable, and like they, you know what I mean? Like,
you don't want them to get killed, right?
Right. Yeah. These people just do it out of their own volition. It's really pathetic.
Yeah, it's really pathetic. So you guys, welcome to the resistance media. This woman is going to be guiding you through the news. Yeah. And she's not even entertaining like Chris Matthews, who is entertaining.
No, Chris Matthews is hilarious. He's
hilarious,
And I mean, his obsession with Tip O'Neill and bipartisanship is the funniest thing ever. Like, it's so quaint and outside. Yeah, it's very sexual. I mean, he had like a genuine like sexual reaction to Barack Obama, and you remember like his famous clip when he was like, "I felt the chill going up my leg, and it went straight up my inner thigh, and then up my," it's like, whoa, dude.
Is that when he also said he forgot he was black or something?
Yeah, he had like a weird thing with Obama. Yeah, it was definitely really weird.
He's like, tonight I forgot what I can't do it, but tonight I forgot he was black.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Anyway. Yeah. Well, we are going to bring in our guests. We're very excited, guys. People probably know because I've told you that we have a guest coming on, and her name is none other than Julia Salazar. Julia, welcome.
Entonces, ¿qué, Julia? ¿Usted cómo está?
Bien.
Muy bien. Katie, you got to learn the Colombian accent.
Okay, I see. Huh, that's pretty good, right? No, that's more Peruvian. I had a Colombian boyfriend.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you know what his name was, guys?
Andrés Restrepo.
No.
Or Camilo Villegas.
No, his name was Jorge Enrique. The nickname for which is Quique, and it's usually spelled Quique, right? Yeah. But I had the great fortune of having a boyfriend who spelled
Kike, yeah.
Kike. Do you guys know what that looks like in texts? Yes, probably some of you don't know. Some viewers out there, you probably don't know, and that's okay. But it is it's an old-fashioned anti-Semitic slur. So it was very fun to say that. Nice. But Julia, Kike, it's a great name, right? It is a cute name. So Julia, congratulations on your victory.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is this? I mean, I almost feels like a retroactive Katie Halper show bump.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not because it's a pure Katie Halper show.
Yeah, you're right. If we go back to the first one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We already got some love for you. We got Eric, who was proud to vote for you yesterday, Senator.
Is it like forever now, like until, you're 90 years old, we have to refer to you as Senator Salazar? Like, even if you retire from the Senate, like you get the title for the rest of your life.
Well, I'll say this. I won't require that you call me Senator, but even Senator DeLon, I still call him Senator DeLon. I still call him Senator if I see him, and I defeated him. So there you go. That should answer the question. Even someone who you made sure is no longer a senator, I don't think that they strip you of the title. You're just a former senator.
You made sure he's no longer a senator. It's a good,
Yeah.
it's a great way to put it.
You should call him. Hi, I made sure you weren't a senator, Delon. How are you?
Hello, former Senator Delon.
Hi, guy I replaced. Yeah.
Disrespectful.
Disrespectful. Yeah. So, tell us about, again, congrats, and tell us about your election, and tell us about how this fits into the general, not the general election, but the broader election scene, as political scientists call it, I believe, the election scene, the broader election scene. But tonight, last night's primaries, Tuesday night's primaries.
Yeah. So, since 2018, many more people have decided to run as insurgent candidates in Democratic primaries, which is really cool, especially in New York. And more, we've seen many more people become involved in local politics. We saw in 2018 a huge increase in turnout, especially in my district, more than any state senate district in the state. This year, we didn't really see the turnout that we would have wanted to see, but it was also actually still higher than most districts across the state, and we'll sort of we'll have a better idea of what the turnout was once the absentee ballots are counted, which won't even be counted until July 1st. So we're all going to have to wait at least a week to actually know for sure what the results of the election are. Some of the races, including my own, were decisive. I think we can say the same about Jabari Brisport, who ran as a DSA endorsed, a DSA member. I also supported him, ran in the district directly south of me in Brooklyn. He did extremely well in a three-way race with, it was for an open seat, but one of the candidates had been in the assembly for a long time. So it was sort of a similar dynamic to running in a race with an incumbent. But what's really important is that the same movement that elected myself and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and other Democratic Socialists to state legislatures around the country for the first time in 2018 saw victories last night, and we'll probably be able to confirm that in about a week from now. I didn't have a very competitive race, but I did have a challenger from the right.
I love you're like you're flexing so hard in a very humble way. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for what it's worth, I think my race was less interesting than a lot of the other races, but I didn't have a very formidable opponent. And it's just real. This guy's like kind of an anti-vaxxer.
Nice.
Actually, yeah. I mean, it was interesting. Formerly supported Trump, but ran as Democrat.
Nice.
Yeah, really a very interesting choice in a district that elected Democratic Socialists before. So
right.
Yeah.
Especially your first election was like a slugfest. I'll never forget that. That is ingrained in my mind. I was genuinely terrified of and now it must feel good to just go up against some loser anti-vaxxer who probably believes in, I don't know, chemtrails or something.
Right. Yeah. No, he believes in a lot of interesting things. I think, honestly, I think it would be nice to have a normal opponent, or someone.
The best gig is to not have an opponent. Come on.
Yeah, that's also true. But to not have an opponent that's like a vestige of the Vito Lopez political machine, which was the case in 2018 and this time around. But hopefully, I don't know. I'm hoping that people who really genuinely care about policy and public service will start running for office more as we're seeing business as usual machine politics not win elections anymore.
Yeah. Well, Julia, tell us about the other people who won. Then I want to talk to you more about your campaign and also what you've achieved as state senator, because you really have done a lot of really exciting things. And when it rains, it pours. You like the way I'm trying to incorporate the sound effects?
Yeah.
There's some wrong. Yeah.
I actually can't hear the sound effects.
Oh, good. Okay, great. So which races were you the most excited about besides your own? I'm not that you're a narcissist. I mean, you should be excited about your own. Which other victories were you excited about, and which non-victories were you disappointed about? But cautiously optimistic, because people lose a lot at the beginning until they, like Saint Bernard lost a bunch of times at first.
Yeah, Saint Bernard.
Oh.
Well, I was really excited about all of the candidates that our local DSA chapter endorsed. We ran multiple candidates for assembly against Democratic incumbents. Those races are still largely undecided, but Zafran Mamdani, who ran in Queens, did very well. Depending on the absentee ballots, I think he has a very good chance of winning that seat. The only state Senate Democratic Socialist who ran aside from myself was Jabari, which is really awesome that I'm going to have a new colleague because I've been the only socialist in the state Senate for the past couple of years. And I was really, one thing that I was disappointed to see was Semelis Lopez ran a really inspiring campaign.
Yeah,
she really hustled and had a lot of grassroots support. But I think because there were a lot of candidates, there were like 12 candidates on the ballot in that race.
I think that Data for Progress poll did her dirty. That was.
Oh, what did he do?
Was that he released a poll like a week or two ago, putting her at 2%. Which was nowhere near what she ended up getting.
Can
but
he
it definitely.
Sorry.
Fired from where? He owns the fucking thing.
I'm firing him. I'm gonna.
We're canceling him.
Canceling him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy. What can I buy shares in Data Progress?
Probably not.
Maybe.
Okay, I'm canceling him. I'm firing him.
Stage a coup in the board.
I'm staging a coup. I'm gonna join the board. Yeah. No, but that's bullshit because that's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Totally.
Right? It's so annoying. It's like, oh, that person's just not viable. Okay, I'm not gonna vote for.
And polling in these like little races like that is wildly unreliable. We didn't know, like Ocasio-Cortez, like when she won, we didn't know what the fuck was going to happen until election night. Like no one knew. Same with Engel and Bowman. We didn't fucking know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that soon. You know what? I'm going to call him out. Sean McElwee.
Yeah.
McAlley, whatever. I'm sorry. No disrespect to my Irish brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
But Ross Barkin, who writes a lot about this stuff. I remember he called out something that I guess, like, what was it that Sean said that Torres was was a progressive, and as Ross Barkin points out, he wouldn't even say that he was like an AOC type of Democrat.
Yeah.
I gotta look for that tweet because I mean, well,
for what it's worth, like a lot of people were bringing up where Richie stood on the Right to Know Act. There were a lot of advocates people who I used to work with within the Community for Police Reform Coalition before I ran for office, who really felt that he had betrayed them at the end of those negotiations over the legislation, and rightfully so, right? He ended up amending his bill in the final hour. This legislation that we had fought years for, to try to minimize the number of unlawful encounters and unconstitutional encounters between civilians and the police in New York. So basically, there was already bad blood between a lot of people on the left and Richie Torres. So I was a little bit surprised that wasn't reflected. But there's at least a grain of truth in the logic that you see that a lot of people sort of drew from the Data for Progress poll, which was like, if it came down to Richie Torres or Ruben Diaz, Richie is far and beyond the better candidate,
right?
To be a better congressman. But frankly, that we should reject that dichotomy, especially when there are 12 candidates in a race and we have a candidate as inspiring as Semelis. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, got it, baby.
Got my
I
support
nice.
Palestinian.
Great.
Nice.
Great cup.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, this is just I had to find this tweet from Ross Barkin where he said, "Gotta love Sean McElwee calling Richie Torres an AOC style progressive here. Dude literally disavows DSA, supported the leader of the IDC, and is proudly pro-Israel."
Yeah.
So yeah, shame on you, Sean, and shame on Data Progress. And if I ever contributed to them, which I don't, I would stop. And I'm just canceling them, and they're all you know, whatever. I mean, I like your abolish ICE t-shirt, Sean. That was good, but you should have stopped there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Richie Torres, by the way, so that was the race. Was that against Ruben Diaz, senior or junior? Senior, right? Okay. Yeah. I gotta say I'm a little conflicted because while I don't like his politics, I respect a good cowboy hat.
Yeah. Latin cowboy hat guy. Yeah.
I mean, that's bold. That is like that. Not every man has the security is secure enough in his manlyhood to do that. So I'm not. I certainly you're not. Yeah. Well, no. Also, you're not Latinx, Nando.
I'm not Latinx.
Spaniard. You are
I'm
a Spaniard.
An imperialist pig.
Yeah. I mean, I like pigs, so I don't actually. But
is that what you claim?
Imperialist pig.
Yeah.
Do you imperialist pig identify?
Yeah. Yeah. I self ID as an imperialist pig.
And I just want to give people the chance to see the man I'm talking about. This is Ruben Diaz. 1 second. Just so people senior. Yes, thank you.
We're gonna provide a photo identification.
Photo op.
Or
let's see. Okay, here we go. This is a nice one.
Suspense.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. I didn't realize that he wore the cowboy hat that frequently.
Oh yeah, and I really like Sam Ellis, and also Sam Ellis was like great on foreign policy. She talked. In fact, you can see my interview with her. I had her on, and I had Assad Haider on, and Sam Ellis talked about the her humanistic international policy, foreign policy. Yeah. Oh, look at the whole fam. You see? Look, he's never without it.
Yeah.
His cowboy hat. And he also, that's a cute baby there though. He also drove around back when Ted Cruz was being driven around the Bronx. That was Ruben Diaz who accompanied him.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to Sam Ellis. And as I told Sam Ellis on the show, I mean, I think honestly, if the Katie Halper show hadn't been mitigated by Sean,
I
think she would have sailed through.
Yeah.
But which is another reason I absolutely am out to cancel Sean. In fact, why don't we have a hashtag? Katie helps cancel.
We're gonna abolish data for progress.
I'm gonna make a T-shirt that says that. Yeah, abolish DFP. Yeah. Tell us please about the Bowman upset. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was incredible. Jamaal Bowman, and that was actually an example. Someone pointed this out that in some of these races, you had, I can think of at least an assembly district in South Brooklyn, Assemblyman Felix Ortiz's district, right, where there were 2 or 3 progressive challengers. And, Jamaal Bowman challenged Congressman Engel, and there was another challenger with pretty comparable policy stances to Jamaal's. And similarly, we saw in South Brooklyn a race where Marcela Mitanes ran, Hennessy Sakino, Catherine Walsh. They all ran against Felix Ortiz, and it really appears based on like the electoral map, and also the way their endorsements were spread out, that the left wasn't able to galvanize around one candidate, and the result was that an incumbent who was to the right of all of them was able to just, sail into the seat again. In the case of Jamaal challenging Congressman Engel, a third challenger, right, Andem, who was also in the race before, he ended his campaign and endorsed Jamaal a matter of, I think it was only a few weeks ago, maybe even less than that. The past couple of weeks have felt really long in the electoral world. But it was very recently that he did, and he did that knowing, that it was unlikely that he would be able to win. And he recognized it was more important that a truly progressive candidate fighting for transformative policies would be able to win. And sure enough, I think it made a difference. And who knows, maybe Jamaal would have won even in a three-way race. But it was a rare example of the left closing ranks and
like the libs did with Bernie.
Yeah. Or right.
Yeah.
Sort of the opposite of what we wanted, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This time it benefited the left, but
right. Yeah. The consolidation, the usually moderate consolidation. This was leftist consolidation.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I think is interesting about this moment in New York is that progressives across the board who were running ran really strong absentee campaigns and really encouraged people to submit absentee ballots. It also, there was almost what they called no excuse absentee voting, because anyone could just check that they had been impacted or were concerned about coronavirus and therefore would be able to vote absentee. And we also were testing out for the first time the new election laws that we passed at the state level in 2019, in early 2019. So expanding early voting, and also making absentee voting easier. And therefore, in the past, absentee ballots typically, for example, with Tiffany Caban's campaign, a lot of people are still reasonably a little bit traumatized by the outcome of counting the absentee ballots after election night with that, right? Because I think, it's like something like 50 votes was ultimately the margin that gave Melinda Katz the victory, right? I think that we're going to see different results. It's difficult to predict, but we're going to see more progressives votes counted in those absentee ballots on July 1st. So it could actually swing some of these elections, such as in Zohran's race. It could really secure his victory over an incumbent. It could even push Marcela Mataines over the edge, and be able to defeat an incumbent in her race as well. So it's we'll see. It's different than an election that we've seen before.
And Julia, when you go to like Albany and stuff, do you when you write a law? What do you do? Do you fire up Microsoft Word and just start writing? How does it work? I've never known a politician in my life.
A legislator.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have incredibly smart and competent counsel in the central staff of the state Senate. And we also are all assigned bill drafters. So it can take a lot of different forms. I generally, if I have an idea about legislation, or if one of my constituents has an idea for legislation, then, I seek their input as much as possible, even welcome them to draft a bill with my office. I also have a legislative director who is really amazing. And he's actually, in his other life outside of the Senate, he's a criminal defense attorney, and a comrade. And so he's brilliant and really great to work with. So he helps me tremendously in drafting legislation. And I also have an assigned bill drafter. So it can mean it can look like me submitting a bill that's virtually in its final form, or I can just sort of throw something together, submit it to the bill drafter, and say can you make sure that this is constitutional, and poke holes in it and make sure that it's sound, and then they'll get us a bill draft. We'll say, okay, we're ready to submit it, and then it's a bill.
Because I'm assuming these awful corrupt people who've been there forever just hand a piece of paper to some real estate developer and is here, write the bill and I'll just submit it. So it's I've always, that's something I think about a lot. Hey, let's get into politics, get a leftist into politics, whatever. But then you have to actually do the thing, and it sounds so hard. And I think that's just a huge barrier for people to jump in. Yeah. That might be. So it's cool to hear you talk about all that stuff.
It's a little easier than it looks, and also one thing that I found coming in a new Democratic majority after the Democrats in the state Senate hadn't been in power and hadn't controlled the chamber in a long time, is that we were a lot of, I was new and a little self-conscious about being new and being the youngest member of the Senate. And what I found was that everyone is just winging it all the time.
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, that's true of politics as it is with corporate America. Like I've worked at, some of the biggest companies in America and stared into the belly of the beast of the highest levels, and some VP of whatever the fuck who's making like $1 bajillion, like has no idea what he's doing and is just winging it half the time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like emboldening. It's depressing, but also ultimately maybe empowering, right?
It is. You have to get rid of your imposter syndrome. I'm not talking about you personally. I'm talking about
Nando's very good at
this. It's fine.
Yeah, Nando, you should be a coach, a lifestyle.
I'm very good at this.
Also, you're very good at like women. I feel like you're good at.
I'm good at women.
You're good.
You're good at understand. Hold on, I'm taking a picture to put on Instagram. You're good at understanding like the shit women face. I feel like you know what I mean? Like maybe because you have a sister.
Yes.
And a mom.
Yes. I think my sister might be watching. Shout out, Elisa.
Hi, Lisa. How are you? We gotta have her on.
Yeah. She's way cooler than me, to be honest.
I mean, I'm reusing you I'm trying this. The whole plan, the whole idea here is, I know. The Elisa plan.
To increase her female viewership.
I do, yeah. I need to, yeah. You guys look a lot alike. It's really cute. Oh, I see. Oh, another joke about Nana being good looking. All right, we got to have we have to have a drinking game where we drink every time someone says that. Someone being me or my guest. I know. This seems to be a Nando exploitation free zone.
No, it's okay. I'll allow
you must
it.
be really triggered by it, right?
No, I'm okay. I can survive.
I run my social media while I do this, by the way. I'll talk to anyone want to do that. Let me know. Cause I'm like trying to tweet out and Instagram out and it gets very distracting. I won't do that. Think of your mom and sister. Thank you, Ben Gordon. So Julia, what, I wanted to know what you've been able to achieve as a state senator. And I mean, yeah, just let's start with that.
Yeah. Well, I feel really fortunate to have come into the state Senate at the moment that I did when. Oh
wait, sorry, Julia. Can you raise your volume at all, or come closer to the mic?
Oh, yep.
Listen to women. How's that?
Yes. Actually, how is that? I don't know.
Eric, how is that?
Maybe more.
I like the request implies I have some major like tech operation here where I'm like, let me just raise the senator 30%. I think that's okay. What do you guys think? Good?
I can hear me.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Great.
Way to undermine Julia. She can hear herself.
So, I mean, I came into the state Senate at a really fortunate moment when I was able to join the conference that then had control of the chamber. And if I had come in the minority, then naturally it would be very difficult for me to pass legislation. So coming into a Democratic-controlled state Senate and Democratic-controlled assembly with a Democratic governor made it easier for me to pass something like 25 bills in just a year and a half that I introduced.
It's huge.
Yeah, no, it's good. But the first bill that I passed when I got into the state Senate was something called the CCCA, the Comprehensive Contraception Care Act. It's kind of a tongue twister, but it expands access to contraception across the state of New York. So there's no more cost sharing. No insurance plan can charge anyone to fill their birth control prescription, and it applies to all of the many FDA approved forms of contraception, which I got to like have a little bit of internal debate with our Republican colleagues across the aisle about the intimate details of using these different types of contraception. So
wait, like what? Like wait, like what?
Like just having
it goes in the
what
V.
A vaginal condom is. you know,
vaginal
how,
condom,
and why it should be free for someone to be able to get at the pharmacy, or get through their doctor. So that was interesting. And then, you know, what was most exciting for me was being a part of passing these really transformative rent laws in 2019. It really had motivated my run for office in the first place. That I represent a district where it's been disproportionately harmed by gentrification, and by the housing crisis. A lot of families who have been in North Brooklyn, in Williamsburg, especially in Bushwick, for a long time, for generations, are being pushed out. And it's because until last year, there were these loopholes essentially in the rent laws that would allow for landlords to permanently destabilize apartments and push people out, raise the rents, and make buildings and units permanently unaffordable for people who have lived in our neighborhoods for a long time. So I fought for this package of 9 bills, really led by, for the first time, this statewide coalition to finally improve the policies for people who live in rent regulated apartments. And then I introduced a bill called the Good Cause Eviction Bill, which we are still fighting to pass, which would essentially implement a form of universal rent control across the state of New York. But we've been gaining co-sponsors. We have a solid majority of co-sponsors in the Senate on the bill. So it's just a matter of continuing to fight to make sure that leadership brings the bill to the floor. And it's really a critical moment to be doing that, because so many people haven't been able to afford to pay their rent for months. And what was already a crisis in our communities has really been exacerbated by the public health crisis.
Yeah. Does that make you feel, I mean, it's very frightening. I'm not in New York City. I feel very distanced from it and very spoiled and like privileged, but I could see how this crisis would make you like scared of politics, but it could also make you realize how urgent they are. Have you faced or felt or experienced more frustration and despair and hopelessness, or more hope, I guess, or combo?
Yeah, definitely a combo. I have really been encouraged by people in our communities coming together and forming mutual aid networks to make up for, frankly, the failure of the federal government to provide enough assistance to New York right now. You know, on the one hand, it's absolutely devastating that we've lost almost 5,000 people in Brooklyn to the virus, and it's a lot of it has been in communities that I represent, like in East New York and Brownsville, Bushwick and Bed-Stuy. Our safety net hospitals have been hit really hard, and it was inspiring though to see in a moment like this, when at the same time the governor was trying to push through an austerity budget, cut Medicaid funds to hospitals that desperately need it. And this was at the peak of the pandemic. We're not even talking about right now, where thankfully, like, hospitalizations are decreasing and things are starting to get a little bit back to normal. This was at the worst moment of the pandemic that he was proposing making millions, more than $1 billion actually across the state in Medicaid cuts, right? But we were able to fight back and really rapidly defeat that proposal in order to protect our community. So I've seen people come together to advocate for policy that's good for our communities, but also come together to feed families that are unable to feed themselves right now, and to provide PPE and hand sanitizer to combat the price gouging that was going on, right? So people's material needs are being met by the solidarity that we've been seeing in Brooklyn and across the city. So I think altogether, it's been inspiring to see people respond to it, and then also it is pretty shocking that even in a really the worst public health crisis that I think we've seen in any of our lifetimes, that it's not enough to motivate people, the very wealthy, entrenched politicians, compromised politicians, to tax, to increase taxes on the rich, to do the things that we know we absolutely need to do in order to save people's lives. Like, it's not a matter of like personal preference, right?
Yeah.
So
it's not
So
ideology.
you're saying you're not a Cuomo-sexual.
No, I'm not a homosexual.
Well, yeah, it's just it's really wild. Like, I look at the economic numbers and I'm like, this is the biggest crisis in the history of capitalism, at least in 100 years, maybe since capitalism came to be. And the sense that our politics and our elected officials and our ruling class is just pretending like it's not happening is just so disorienting. So to see people like you who are actually trying to do the best you can to like fix this incredibly severe crisis, both on a public health standpoint and as well as an economic standpoint, like, how does that feel when you're like in Albany dealing with all these people who are just like, yeah, I don't know, well, maybe we should just reopen the bars?
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I have witnessed people who previously were, before this crisis, not particularly sympathetic to taxing the rich, not really sympathetic to our sort of class struggle politics, right? I've seen them in a very short period of time recognize that it's absolutely necessary. Like, this crisis has it's agitated people, essentially. It's made people choose which side they're on. The governor not included, right? But thankfully, the problem has not been my colleagues so much, right? And I'm seeing the electorate. I think the results of this election are demonstrating that people are ready to support these absolutely essential measures that would have if we had universal health care, there's no way that we would have lost nearly as many people in the United States as we did, right? And if we had a more equitable tax system, we wouldn't have to, in the middle of a pandemic, beg for our public hospitals to be funded, right? And have to call people in other states and other countries in order to just get the essential PPE for our hospitals, right? Which is something that I've had to do and that my colleagues have had to do. It's completely absurd. I remember, sort of coordinating it and talking to my mom about it. And I'm like, yeah, I had to order PPE from China today for like my local hospital. It's a real thing that a bunch of us have had to do because, and it's unfortunate, especially as a socialist who is at once telling everyone, like, we want the government to be able to provide these basic goods, right? We want to take collective responsibility for this, and yet we're having to like look elsewhere, and not that that's what mutual aid is about, but rely on mutual aid networks in order to provide for people's material needs because the government is failing to. And that feels counterintuitive for me as a socialist,
Right. Well, better mutual aid than charity, right?
I guess so. I mean better than proposals for some corporation to come in and
right.
And then
mutual aid has more egalitarian, right, universal, and like more rights based, less charity based, more justice based than like generosity based,
right?
Framing.
It's not about philanthropy,
right? By the way, although everyone should be giving, and basically we need to tax everyone through the nose. But we have another guest who I'm going to bring on in a couple of seconds. Let me just tell him we're ready.
1, 2.
Wait, but I want to give Julia a chance to respond to some of the. Oh, wait, should we bring him in? Let's bring him in. Let's bring him in. All right, everyone pay attention. Don't go crazy. We're going to bring in our guest. I'm going to say quick hello, and then we're going to give Julia a chance to respond to some of these things. Oh, let me. Okay. Hi, Ken.
Hey guys, how's it going, everyone?
Hear us?
What up?
Hi, we're very excited to have journalist Ken Klippenstein from The Nation. He's also at the Young Turks. He's been published in The Intercept, and but yeah, based now at The Nation magazine, and really amazing investigative reporter, and making in very exciting news. I mean, this is a real game changer moment, making his Katie Halper show debut. So put that on the top of your bio. Yeah,
he's gonna get hired in the New York Times before you know it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, welcome, Ken.
Hopefully, my next job move isn't right in the middle of a global pandemic. I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah. Well, everything's online now, so. And Julia Salazar, Ken Klippenstein. I don't know if you guys know each other online or IRL, but you
online.
Yeah.
I know all you folks from the internet.
Yeah.
It's like we're all living in a Philip Dick novel where we get to see everyone's simulated selves.
Yeah,
this is an avatar. I don't look like this.
It's like normal now.
Yeah.
I know.
Age where it's totally normal to socialize this way.
Yeah, to social distance, socialize. Yeah. Just want to give some shout outs. We have Elisa was indeed watching. Elisa, sorry, I never know it. I always mispronounce it. Elisa was watching. Hi, Elisa. We got some. Oh, will you? I don't know if this is for me or for Julia. Could be. It's on us, guys, as Obama says, and as what's that guy who's the face for that campaign? The guy who played the rapist on Orange Is the New Black. You know, Matt McGorry. Yeah, Matt McGorry was the face of the It's on Us affirmative consent campaign, which I always like.
Yeah.
So
he turned into like a good Bernie bro though.
Oh, then yeah, exactly. I do like it now.
He evolved.
No, it's a good symbol. That exactly it. It's a sign of evolution. You can evolve from prison guard who has non-consensual relationships with inmates to an ally on affirmative consent, and you can evolve from someone who works with the Obama administration to a Bernie bro. But the question is, will you please relentlessly mock the Democrats who leave legislating halfway through the day to go fundraise and phone bank? And that's a question. I mean, I feel like Julia and Ken, you're both of you are kind of uniquely qualified to address that. Hold on one second. I am we are all social. Well, I don't know, 3/4 of us are socialists here. I don't want to speak for you, but Ken, but we do live in the capitalist world system. So we got to center the voices that pay. Brian Frederick would like to know, does the senator support ranked choice voting?
Yes. Yeah, I do support
Easy.
ranked choice voting. I think it would have been great to see the pilot rolled out. We're going to see it in New York City actually next year, but it would be interesting to see the results of some of these elections if we had ranked choice voting instead of winner takes all. Yeah, but on the question also about fundraising, that actually really is it makes the case for public campaign financing, because we don't see it as much in the state Senate or in the state legislature, but we do see, right, it's very common for congressional representatives to spend most of their day, because elections are only every 2 years, fundraising and dialing for dollars or whatever they say. And it's because they're eligible for public matching funds to a certain extent, but it isn't quite what we see at the city level. And it's really difficult for people to run a viable campaign. I know, I can speak from the experience of running a campaign that rejects all corporate PAC money and any for-profit real estate money. I think that it can be done. The fact that we are seeing more congressional representatives and more state representatives refusing to rely on huge donors and instead running truly grassroots campaigns is really, it's a good thing. But I try to have some humility about it and recognize that, like, I ran for office for the first time in 2018, and I know that there are people who are really, they need to adjust, but they're used to the way that things used to be, right? In like this traditional way of dialing for dollars and sustaining their campaigns. And you know, we need to demand better.
All right, I agree with that.
Well, if we impose a dictatorship of the proletariat, there would be no need for campaign finance because there would be no elections.
Right.
Easy.
It's unclear
Well,
what's going to happen first, right?
I don't know if that's okay. Maybe.
No, speak.
I don't think
Speak
it's,
on it.
yeah.
I'm kidding. I don't want to get you in trouble. Disregard that. Delete it.
You don't have to. No, it's okay. We can talk sometime about what it means for there to be a dictatorship of the proletariat, though.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We can have we gotta get Assad back on here. Not, I mean, call me an Assadist if you will, if you must.
What does
Assad hater? Assad hater.
Different Assad.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay, yeah.
Different Assad.
Sorry. Assad hater, yeah, which is
I can't
also
wait.
funny.
Someone will clip that and it'll be good.
I know. I mean, it's like
Got it.
one of the less positive things I've said about the other one. Just kidding. All right. By the way, I don't know how to see my earlier chats. I'm trying to find someone who chatted earlier, and not only because of this, but they did pay. You see, this is all demonstration of why we need socialism now, so that we can have more egalitarian YouTube chats. But Ken, Julia, we want to give you the chance. If you have any, you can stay. We can drink all night. We can talk all night. You may have some work to do. Want to give you a chance to say goodbye powerfully. Whatever you want. You can sneak away. Whatever you want to do. But you have been with us for a while. We're really grateful.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And come back.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
I feel like a Katie Halper show veteran.
Yeah, you are. Of course. Yeah, we had you on. I interviewed you for Teen Vogue. That was fun.
Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah.
Last
yeah.
Last question.
Okay.
Last.
Sorry, I'm about to.
Okay. Last question though. Does the senator have tips for my dog re-fireworks?
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Well, I guess it kind of depends if you have like a place where you can sequester your dog, and if you have the time to just spend consoling them. I don't really have tips. I have a puppy who I would go get him, but there's only 2 rooms in my apartment, and in the other room there are 4 people. So
wow, thank you for sharing
now,
yourself.
They don't live in anywhere.
Right.
So I have a puppy who's only 5 months old. And he thankfully is not afraid of fireworks. He doesn't love them, but he doesn't get anxiety about them. But he does get anxiety about some things because he's extremely attached, because he's like a quarantine puppy.
Oh,
you know? So,
right.
I think the only advice I have is that they make these like calming treats. I'm going to tell you to give your dog drugs.
Oh, good.
They do.
Yeah.
They make
Calming
these, like,
treats.
calming.
It's called Vicodin.
No, it's called
no, it's like
CBD, right?
valerian root, actually.
Oh, valerian root, nice.
Is probably what's like melatonin, maybe. But anyway, they have these treats that are safe for dogs, and it mellows them out a little bit if they have anxiety.
All right, I'll give some to Bodhi.
Yeah, try it.
I'll show some photos of you and Bodhi. Yeah, later on.
The drugs with your dog.
Yeah, dogs like to dabble.
They do.
Just like humans do. All right, thank you so much, Julia.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
That was State Senator Julia Salazar. And Steve Slesher, I want you to know that I see you. Even though you don't pay for comments, I see you. And good on you for being a social worker. I mean, I'll see you more if you pay $1 or $2, but no, I'm just kidding. Okay, so Ken, thank you so much for joining us. Ken is an amazing investigative journalist, again, at The Nation, and he's written some amazing pieces. I go over the top, but you are a very, very good journalist. And so it's not over the top. You have a recent piece about Eliot Engel that I would love for you to talk about. Fresh off the press, hot off the presses. You posted it. You filed it. Yes, Tuesday, I believe. And then a piece before that on Antifa, which is very exciting. So let's start with the bigger threat of those, which is, of course, Eliot Engel. And I do want to announce, guys, that I tweeted a couple days ago that people really needed to vote for Bowman for many reasons, including the fact that if and when he won, I would be able to write a headline called White Hawk Down. And you all helped make that happen. So without any further ado, and I'm going to open up your article, Please tell us about this great piece that you wrote about Engel.
Yeah, I think you captured pretty well. White Hawk Down. He had tried to sort of rebrand in the last couple of years. It would be misleading to call him a sort of right-wing Democrat with respect to domestic policy, at least. So, for example, he embraced Medicare for All, which I think is a testament to how effectively that has been advanced within the Congressional Progressive Caucus. But when you look at his foreign policy, it's quite a different story. He's pretty well known for being a major recipient, perhaps the top recipient within the House of pro-Israel PAC funds. And as a matter of fact, during this primary, the Republican group actually funneled money through a Democratic pro-Israel group to Engel, and that was first reported by The Intercept. I thought that was pretty illustrative of his time in Congress, because I started looking through, just his record, and I was astonished by, the number of times he found common cause with not just Republican figures, but even Trump administration folks. So, for example, during the Obama administration, he was pretty widely criticized for opposing the Iran deal until, of course, it passed. At which point, when Trump won, then he rebranded and said, "Well, actually, maybe maybe we want the Iran deal after all, now that a Republican is advancing it." But when it was Obama in the White House, he actually gave a joint press conference with Mike Pence, who, of course, at the time was a congressperson, and he joined him to condemn and oppose any UN investigation into the Israeli commando raid of the Gaza flotilla that came to Gaza to try to provide them with humanitarian aid. Ended up killing something like 8 or 9 activists. And not only did he oppose, it's not like there was an investigation and he disagreed with the results. He didn't want there to be a UN investigation. And his statement for why was pretty much identical to Pence's and the Republicans generally, which is that looking into Israel is of its nature illegitimate, because we have to be there. They have this term, strategic partnership. Right. And you are talking about a country that has an ugly human rights record. Right. We call it a strategic partnership, as if there's some kind of realpolitik reason that we have to be adults here and think about think strategically about why we need to condone some of this stuff that a lot of people would think is bad. So that is one example of many. Another one was.
Can I ask you something quickly? Before we go on with that, is it with Israel though? Is it framed as a strategic partnership? Isn't Israel kind of like the bestie of the United States, like government? Politicians are always calling Israel special friend, special relationship. Do they actually use the term strategic partnership for Israel, or is that reserved for people we're not quite as openly amorous with?
Well, that's an interesting question, because that's changing, and I think this election shows exactly how it's changing. When you look at the demographic characteristics of the Democratic Party, younger folks of all ethnic backgrounds are a lot more skeptical of what we do in terms of military aid for Israel than Democratic voters in the past have been. So I think you are going to see a shift away from and towards the rhetoric that we used to describe, our say arms exports and coordination with Saudi Arabia, for instance, which itself has become increasingly entwined and working with, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, so on and so forth, working with Israel now, increasingly becoming less and less distinct with respect to their foreign policy. So I think we're going to see a lot of the same language we used to describe, these theocratic, frankly, dictatorships. I think the language is going to start to reflect that a lot more.
Mike Pence's suit is incredible in that picture.
Let me see.
That's the Obama suit.
It's
That's
like,
the Obama suit.
But Obama, at least it fit better. Like, Mike, look at those sleeves. Like, is that his older brother's? That's like his older brother's suit. A hand-me-down. It looks terrible.
That's the 3 7-year-olds in the trench coat suit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
His head is kind of behind. It's like those old dog pictures where they would put the dog's head and try to make it look like he's like playing tennis or something.
Yeah.
Totally.
Awful.
Dog shit.
That out for him?
Yeah, it looks terrible.
It's something about being a Republican. You can't have anything that fits, which is why Eliot Engel's suit doesn't fit either, I think.
Oh yeah, you're right. Get them away. Peter King looks just so so Peter Kingian. I mean, God bless him.
He kind of looks like Leland Palmer for any Twin Peaks fans out there.
Yeah,
yeah, he does.
He kind of looks like a Yenta, like a 60-something-year-old Jewish woman.
Yeah, that too.
You know what I mean? Like,
Shout out to Chris Shea of The Nation for picking that photo, by the way.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah,
it illustrates exactly what. Yeah, that's Engel is just voting. Not just so a lot of people know him for his positions in the Middle East and Israel, but in Latin America it's bad as well.
Yeah.
You have the coup that happened in Ecuador. You have the coup that happened in Honduras, which he seemed fine with. Certainly in Ecuador, he was quick to move on to the next government, and they love to frame it as, oh, we need to embrace democracy and have a new election. And it's like, well, but we just had an election. Like, it's not really a legitimate one if you just decide to ignore the previous one and hold a new one, And so that was sort of his strategy with that. But it's very interesting to see people like AOC come in and condemn these things. And I've seen people be critical of AOC's foreign policy, and she's certainly more staid than she could be, but she is saying things to the frustration of a lot of the party in the center that causes a lot of headaches for them to have to explain why they're not also condemning these coups. Right. So it is creating an interesting contrast, I think.
And you mentioned in your piece that he wanted to strip Ilhan Omar, right, of her what's the term of her position?
So she had a committee assignment, and this is really why I think this election was so important, and why you saw Democratic leadership throwing a lot of what they had at Bowman to try to stop them, because this wasn't just an ordinary congressional race. There were other primaries taking place that people like Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer and all of these top Democrats coming behind Engel in an almost like comical overkill sort of way to try to thumb the scales. They're not just doing that because it's any race. They're doing it because he's chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I cover a lot of sort of foreign policy, national security type stuff. And something that folks might not know is that Foreign Affairs Committee, they get read into and are given classified briefings all the time that the rest of the public does not get, and that's a huge mechanism of oversight that we have for a lot of this classified information. If you look at the way the laws in our system is constructed, it's really one of the only ways we have for the public to learn about what sorts of classified things are going on. So if they lose a chairmanship like this from someone who's very, gets a lot of money from military contractors and the like, no matter who they replace him with, and they're going to try to replace him with a really bad centrist, I don't dispute that. It's going to be hard to find one who has the exact same type of politics, quite as reactionary as him. And so when Congress gets these briefings, they can come to a reporter like me. They can leak these classified things to us, and it's actually illegal. It's sort of in debate, but it's basically illegal for them to do so. That's really important. When you you have to give you an example, we have you mentioned Ilhan Omar. So if you get the right people on these committees, you end up getting people that were involved in war crimes grilled, as you saw her do with Elliot Abrams, which is really a historic moment. I can't think of a time when someone that powerful had to face not just questions about were you competent in how you carried out X horrible military policy, but it was fundamentally wrong and immoral. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that before. That was really startling. No. So they try really hard to lock down these committee assignments because they don't want it to go, because you see what happens when you've got people with relatively progressive politics that have these seats.
Ken, I have a question. How, you're a very good investigative reporter. How do you get these national security ghouls to talk to you?
That's a good question.
What's interesting is they actually appreciate that I have, unconventional politics. I think they get sick of the kind of center lib kind of thing. And there's a whole lot more going on than whatever the Mueller investigation or the Ukraine investigation now. They have concerns above and beyond a lot of that. And in my experience, a lot of them, they've talked to folks from the Times, and they're not interested in what they have to say. So I have a very different, when I was younger and coming into this, I thought, how am I going to do this? Because I don't really believe a lot of what, and to my surprise, it's been sort of not at all what I expected. There's actually a lot of people that need someone to go, because these guys, if you have a security clearance, you can't be. They actually get polygraphed about who they talk to, so they can't be public facing at all. They need a dissent channel in the media to air out their concerns. And if it's all just this kind of, New York Times, Maggie Haberman kind of stuff, there's serious limits on what they're going to be able to get through. So to me, I'm more like, I have more stuff than I have time to go through, and I didn't expect it to be this way at all. And I'll say, a lot of I think people would be surprised how many of my sources are conservative. I'm not saying, all of them are, or I'm not commenting generally because I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but I think folks would be surprised how many people just don't feel represented by sort of liberal consensus that exists in the mainstream media, and they're happy to talk to someone just outside of that, whether that's the left or whatever it is.
Come here, you crazy commie! I got to tell you something.
Yeah,
but that's kind of how they talk to me.
Yeah.
Also, like if you can own the libs for them. Yeah.
That's true, right? Because they have their own. I mean, there's such a dearth because there are far right people that they can talk to.
But they don't have any report.
There's very little to the left of the sort of consensus. You know what I mean? Like it's really limited.
Yeah, which of course people will try to attack. Like people use what you just said as a way to try to delegitimize you, as opposed to realizing the truth, which is that like the liberal media is so bad that there are so few places. And again, that doesn't mean you embrace Trump. And look, this is so obvious. I don't know why we have to keep explaining this or debating this, but like there have always been political overlaps with people with whom we disagree. That's nothing new. But have you experienced this more because with Trump as president? Like, has that been that kind of trend you're talking about been?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because and how 100%. Much of that is?
Well, that's the other thing is that this job, not to wax poetic, but it's like almost been a kind of spiritual thing for me to see that there are people who profess to have certain views, and a lot of that's pretty superficial. And in fact, they'll stick their neck out and take risks and do stuff that and end up doing things that might be more in accord with what I would consider, sort of anti-authority, maybe socialist, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
And maybe they describe themselves as conservative, but that's sort of a cultural affiliation rather than really what I would call, like how they live their lives. So I actually have a lot of people that, like, on paper, I would think, oh, this guy's ridiculous, or maybe they even say some dumb stuff. But I have people that have told and give me stuff they could get in serious trouble for, and to me that that speaks to kind of integrity that I don't think is sort of captured by, and I think that you see a lot of possibility because there's a whole lot of people that are left out of this sort of boring consensus that I was describing before. I think that stuff is a lot less popular than people realize, and even if someone calls themselves conservative or liberal, I don't know. A lot of times that I find that to be pretty skin deep.
Yeah, it's just like what team they're on, really, not so much like their
even aside from leaking or whistleblowing, I'll even talk to them sometimes about like healthcare stuff, and they'll actually be like pretty open to things. It's kind of like they just hadn't heard a lot of it, and these are, I see, like, intelligence community people are generally, a lot of them have pretty decent degrees. You would think that they'd be pretty indoctrinated, frankly, and there's a lot more openness. I think just because the system is falling apart, there's no legitimacy. They see day to day how absurd everything is, and in a way that is scary because we don't know what's going to replace the systems that are collapsing. But at least for someone like me as a reporter, and I would imagine politically more generally, that's a big opportunity for people that have something else to say. And that's certainly, I found that to be sort of fruitful in terms of people's willingness to work with me.
And how did you get into journalism? I mean, I feel a little guilty because there's so much politics to be talking about, but I am curious about your story personally.
Oh gosh, it was really Occupy Wall Street because I graduated right like in the middle of the crash after college, and I never expected to be rich or anything, but I had kind of hoped I would have like an okay job, and I was unemployed for like, I don't know, like 2 or 3. I mean, I worked at a restaurant for a couple years, and like, once the economy kind of recovered, I never really forgot about how awful that was.
We lost him right when he was getting to the good part.
Oh, here you are. Okay, great.
He's back.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. So
you want
after
to
being
capture
unemployed
the
for
darkness and despair. So when all black screen, yeah.
yeah, exactly. The light comes through. The light starts shining through. And then it's like the before after pictures on Instagram. It's like, here's the new me.
Yeah.
But so after several years of that, it was really. I mean, I was always, you know, I think I always had kind of unorthodox political views, but it made it real to experience unemployment, and it's not just about like necessarily bills. It's like you're not really included in the society. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not really given a place. It like. How to describe it? Like in feudalism, as bad as it was, everyone had a sort of place.
There were no unemployed people in feudalism.
Right. Everyone had that life. Everyone was taken care of.
Yeah. Right. And it's like beyond just the food you get from that, it's like you have a identity. Do you know what I mean? Like it's really hard to have an identity when you're unemployed, or at least it was for me. Yeah. So then I don't know, I never forgot that. And it made me kind of like really not be able to buy into the system, you know.
So to speak. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Where were you where were you living at this point?
Madison, Wisconsin. I lived there for like I don't know, like nine years. I only just moved out to DC for this job, like 5 or 6 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really And is your family progressive? I mean, I don't even know how you describe yourself politically, but do you come from a family with views similar to yours?
I think it was similar to what I was talking about with the intelligence community, where it's like they would probably describe themselves.
Leon Panetta is your father,
right? So my mom was she's from El Salvador. She's what's called an immigrant, but I mean, she had to leave during the war. You know, I mentioned Elliot Abrams before. I was like it had a lot of personal significance for me to see someone, herself from a very impoverished country stand up to somebody like that who is doing the impoverishing, and that's why my mom immigrated. And so I think because, I mean, that's extraordinary poverty, and without getting into the personal stuff too much, like I think that likewise made it very hard for her to believe in any of this kind of, I mean, this Millennium Corporation kind of like, earned income tax credit stuff, that's just ridiculous when you know anyone that's had to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know that she's like, going to start talking about the Communist Manifesto or anything. Like, she's not, literate in that sense, but I think she always had a kind of streetwise attitude about how power works. And that has made her and my dad, that's a whole nother story. My dad is Mennonite. Do you guys know what Mennonites are?
Yeah.
Vaguely.
They're like very anti-war. So
okay, right. Where are they originally? Where are they from originally? They're like
kind of like Ukraine, Eastern Europe. Yeah. Probably he got distant from Asia. Maybe that's why he's outside of the liberal consensus. But he never really fit in. That's what I find. The people that don't really fit, they always kind of seem to have a good perspective on things. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like I couldn't really be. I don't know that I could be establishment if I wanted to, because it's just I don't really know how to. It's so boring. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't go to those parties and things if I had to.
Yeah.
But
misfit politique.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just kind of stumbled into it. It wasn't really a plan. So, I mean, a lot of people know me for FOIA. I just found that on just reading the news. I was like, wow, that's really cool. I just started doing it for fun. And then next thing I realized, it was like,
people probably know,
Freedom of Information Act, open records requests. And like I was saying before, the sources, like, I don't know how much of a charmed life I lead, so much as that there's not a whole lot of competition. Like, who at the major outlets is really
how many investigative reporters are there?
Not very many. I mean, I came into this
9.
Yeah, when I first came into this, there's not, and among the ones that do FOIA, there's like Jason Leopold, maybe, there's like a couple, and certainly not that many on the national level. So to me, it was like there just really wasn't very much competition to be had. And when I had something, people would be like, "Wait, this isn't a take? Yeah, I want to see it." You know what I mean? Like, and I was amazed because it's like they kind of, what I was saying before about the politics. People, a lot of editors will kind of overlook the political stuff they don't like, because it's kind of like, wait, you have a primary source document? I want that. You know what I mean? So.
Right. Yeah. Primary source. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really crazy. I mean, reporting has, it's probably at its like lowest point ever in terms of volume and maybe standards. Like there's just fewer reporters, than there were 10, 15 years ago. How do you see the profession these days, or do you see a future for it, or do you see like young people getting into? I don't know. Like I'm sure you get asked all the time, like, how do I do what you do? And it's like, well, just go on
I feel terrible. I never know what to say because these kids, like, I was also told, don't do it. It's impossible. You'll never make it. And so I don't want to say that, but at the same time, it's this poor kid. It's like there's not very many jobs, you know. So I don't really know what to tell them. I don't want to mislead some kid and then have him regret it like a few years later, you know. So I guess I really think that what has to change in terms of investigative reporting, I mean, there are a lot of things, but the biggest problems are institutional. Like, obviously, you know, we all, like, Crystal Liza drives everyone nuts, all those guys, but there's a reason. It's not a mistake when you get literally the dumbest people consistently coming to the top. That, to me, that says that there's something about how the system is designed. You know what I mean? Like, they kind of, dumb people will do what they're told, and they're not going to, you know, like Thomas Friedman, all that. I don't think it's a mistake. But anyways,
so
I think I
was in a cab in
Kuala Lumpur.
Mozambique. Yeah. On my way to meet with an app developer. Did you guys see this? Bill Gates has this thing where it's gonna. He was going around. This is literally true. He's drinking like water generated from like fecal matter, and he's saying this is gonna like save Africa. So instead of just letting Africa develop, we're going to make an app to let them drink fecal water.
Yes.
I'm not even kidding. This is
liberal,
real. I couldn't.
Liberal bullshit. Yeah.
Bullshit. Literally. Wait.
I remember for a while there was this technology that was a soccer ball that if you kicked it around, it would generate like electricity, and you could light like a hut in Africa.
Why would you like that, Nando?
What?
You're a soccer man.
I am a soccer man, but that's ridiculous. You know, like this is ridiculous.
Right now? You're against sports ball now?
Yeah, I'm against it. Yeah. I'm against sports ball.
Okay, no, but to answer the question, this is a really important question. How to fix media? Just in one sentence, my pitch. I don't really think it's extraordinary. Like, there's a lot of features, but I don't think the main thing is extraordinarily complicated. Which is that Facebook and Google have monopolies that are stealing most of the revenue, and they don't have money anymore. End of story. Like, there's a lot of other things. Unionization is important. They're critical. You know, alternative media, that's really important because you guys can actually, you guys have more power than you think in terms of pressuring the major media to follow things. I really think that's true. Because I came into this thinking, oh, I'm going to be bitter because I'm always on the outside and I was never allowed in. Actually, like, I've seen major media. So you mentioned my Antifa story. They all followed that stuff because shockingly, they don't break a whole lot outside of what's given to them from the press secretaries.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush because there's good people at, there are always good people.
There's good people at the New York Times.
Yeah. But I mean, generally, this kind of, you guys would be surprised how many stories that are leaks are just coming from White House people.
The thing that I think is under discussed on the left with regards to the media, and it used to be a thing that was just a totem in the 1960s and 70s, which was the idea of a public media. You know, I think that there's this idea here that a public media is inevitably going to be corrupted by whomever's in power. And that's a danger, obviously, but there's ways to structure it. And I'm sure smart people who think about this shit can figure it out. But, you know, the idea of a public media, like information is a public good. We all deserve it. We need it to function, just like we need electricity and water. And we need a public media that is publicly funded, that advocates for our interests because it's publicly funded, instead of funded by advertisers or Facebook and Google, like you said. But like no one talks about it or no one even thinks about it. And I can't see any other way to create institutions that are big and broad and national, that are well funded but also independent of commercial pressures.
Yeah.
I think at some point there's going to just have to be a breakup of these monopolistic structures because Google AdSense is insane in terms of how many clicks you need to get a saleable revenue. What's crazy, it's getting to the point now that I've always worked for pretty progressive outlets, and I'm actually making more than some of these like well-educated kids that go into the big corporate places that you would think would have infinite money. And, you know, many of them do have a lot of resources, but you would be surprised how tight of margins they're running because, you know, when Facebook and Google take their cut, what's left is a system where you can have, you know, 100,000 clicks and that generates maybe a couple $100. And that's
that's crazy.
The amount of power they have is absolutely extraordinary. You know, like, so completely
I remember
aside from
when I was at Fusion, I did a video for Facebook that got like, I want to say like 50 million views or something preposterous like that. And I was like, oh shit. And then I asked like the boss was like, did that like make any money for like what for the company? Or like, we made $600. And I was like, just the cost to make this was not even close. And this is like our most watched video ever. And I'm like, how is this going to work?
Right. You're going to tell me, you're going to tell me 10 million, like, America, relatively affluent country, 10 million views isn't worth like, at least like, $1,000 or something. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
Like, I don't, I'm not an economist, but it's like that money is going because those eyeballs are valuable because you know what I mean? Like, but nobody seems to, everyone just takes as a feature of the universe, a physical matter that Google can just take what it wants,
Yeah. And also people always assume that like, public media or state media, et cetera, they're inherently corrupt or oppressive, but corporate media somehow has no
is independent and free. And it's like, no.
Yeah. Nando, I know you have to get off because you had told me your schedule earlier.
I have a very busy schedule.
But Ken, I would love to keep chatting if you have more time. Although
that's
you
fun.
can also have
No, that's fine. It's nice meeting you, Nando. I've followed you for a while, so it's cool to chat. Yeah.
Yeah,
right,
we'll see you another one. Bye,
Take
Nando.
it easy.
Thanks for coming on. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye. So yeah, any questions? There's already some questions that I just want to give people the chance to listen. There's one. Thoughts on how the Never Trumpers, Lincoln Project crew, et cetera, will fold into a Biden administration, merge into an even worse Republican Party, et cetera?
I mean, they will try to do that, but I hope that what this primary showed us is that there is still pressure. And I mean, Katie, you'll remember we both lived through the Bush administration, and the Stockholm syndrome that people had at that time was much worse, in my opinion, than even with Trump, and even with all the Trump hysterics. You did not see a squad. You did not see a progressive movement.
That's really true. Yeah.
Primary people within it. So I'm not satisfied with. I wish there was more. But you can't say it's as bad as it was. So they'll absolutely try to do what they did last time, which is just give you some neoliberal Obama savior, and don't worry about anything else. Just not have the Republican, everything will be fine. They'll try that, but it does seem like there's a lot more pushback. And I can't say with an unemployment rate at 20% that they have a very easy task of getting everyone corralled around a sort of purely aesthetic candidate who really offers nothing materially.
Yeah. Here, we can also look at a great video from Kamala Harris. Brian Frederick saying the liberal embrace of Bolton is scary. Yeah, we talked about that a lot last week.
Are you suggesting that he's not sincere in blowing the whistle on Trump administration after he was able to get his book out and get?
I mean, it's so lacking in any credibility. It's like, what did you not know about Trump going into that administration? The only thing I think that could possibly be truthful is that he wasn't as much as a hawk as Bolton wanted him to be, or he wasn't as and I'm not valorizing or lionizing Trump or painting him as some dove, but I think he's not a consistent hawk the way that Bolton is. Like, Bolton has never met a regime he hasn't loved to change, and without any, who was it who tweeted that the other day that he likes to regime change, but doesn't even think about what's going to happen after. Anyway, I don't remember that was, but yeah, no, I mean, it's so stupid. It's so ridiculous. And he has a lot more blood on his hands than Bolton does, I think, or would like to.
Yeah, that's what's so enraging to see Obama come out today as he did. I'm sure you saw this, where he's saying, I didn't agree with Bush on everything, but he had a basic respect for the law. Dude, Bolton was Trump's national security advisor. There is a direct through line between these administrations. Like, the lines between Trump and Bush, I'm sure, are there, but they're fuzzy as hell. They're fuzzy as all hell.
That's true. Yeah. If Biden is elected, is there any hope for Palestine? Are they screwed regardless, Trump or Biden? Seems so.
I mean, again, we have, Ilhan Omar in the Congress. Like, things are different. They're not as bad. I mean, you're never going to hear from me that I'm happy with how things are, but they are different. And I think there are opportunities here. And I hope that people don't think of politics as they sometimes do, as, just essentially the White House and that's it. Hopefully people worry about races beyond that, because, these committees, these things, they can make a big difference in terms of the stuff the public can understand. the things they can check, the things they can block. Like, you know, I, for my job, had to get to know a lot of these congressional staffers that are behind a lot of the scenes for these sort of things. And they can, you know, the progressive wing may not be able to like dictate policy, but they can certainly veto some of the worst stuff at the very least. And that can make a big difference in terms of saving lives, I think.
Yeah. I mean, even having Julia on, it's like, it's not, you know, state Senate politics is not the sexiest, but it does make, you know, these things do have a real impact on people's lives.
Yeah. And it's not just, the thing is, Biden is going to come in at an extraordinarily high unemployment rate, and a youth that sees him as essentially illegitimate. If you look at the polling around particularly youth attitudes, I don't mean literally illegitimate as a president, but I'm saying youth are going to feel as though when you have a candidate like this, oh, nobody listened to me. I didn't have any say.
Yeah.
You know, youth are going to say, maybe I liked Bernie, maybe I liked Warren. But if you look at the numbers around, or whoever else it may be, I have my own views. But when you look at Biden's numbers, this was a candidate that was basically ran through by old, you know, old Democratic voters. So he's going to come in a very, how do you say, sort of unstable position at the likes of which, as Dave Weigel pointed out recently, I don't think we've seen since LBJ. And under those sorts of conditions, this can be pressure that they might, you know, be under a lot of heat to have to at least give, you know, I'm the last person in the world that's going to tell you, you know, what the Democrats do, like, oh, we can push the left and things like that. But it's like, he's going to be under a lot of heat, you know?
Right.
So I don't think we know what's going to happen, to be honest. We've never had an unemployment rate this high. Youth unemployment is insane. Piles of bodies after God knows how many people are going to die between now and then of Corona. This is not Obama coming in after 2008. This is a much different context.
Yeah, that's really true. And I think that there's some kind of, we do have to remember how unprecedented this is, because I think a lot of people are used to either one trope or one theory or the other. The one theory being, oh, it's better when there's a Dem in because we can move them more. And the other trope theory being, no, when there's a Republican in the White House, then at least there's real galvanizing opposition. But I think what you're saying is really important. And it's not that we shouldn't be vigilant and prepared that, you know, Biden will do absolutely all he can do to not make any concessions to the left. But this is a different situation that he'll
just look at how he's treated Bernie. Again, I'm never going to be the person that tells you I'm happy with how things are, but he's not humiliating the wing in the same way that Clinton did. Yeah. The way Clinton treated it, she was just like, go fuck yourself. There was, you know, there wasn't even a pretend to like sort of, yeah, we're friends, check it out. You know, like with Biden, it's quite different. And I know from, you know, the staffers I know, they're not enemies. I mean, they are enemies with respect to policy, but on a sort of personal level. And I know the way that these concessions can not, you know, mean that Biden is going to become progressive or anything, but they give space for the sort of progressive movement to continue to grow itself and not be met with the same sort of like just hostile. Just look at the discourse from it. I don't see the same sort of like Bernie is the sort of like terrorist that's going to rip the party apart anymore. You know what I mean? Like that's not because the near attainments of the world are nice now. It's because they understand they understand they can't do that without losing. You know, I mean, they're gonna.
I think the near Tandons still do that, but I think the Bidens and others like that just. I mean, I think actually it's a bit upsetting how much of a personal bond Biden and Bernie have, because I actually think
I think it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think that watching. I mean, I was like I always wanted Bernie to be harder, and I think Bernie's straight. I mean, from what I can tell, he's a very loyal person. And I do think that was harmful, honestly, to the campaign and ultimately to the country and the world. Now, maybe it's a moot point because he couldn't have overcome the moderate consolidation. But I think that again is more of I think that's a testament to the where we are as a country and, you know, Sanders' movement. But, you know, yeah, I do think that there's, I mean, the personal is political and all that. And there was not the same animus between Sanders and Biden that there was with, you know, Sanders and Hillary Clinton.
I suspect it's that the movement is just can throw its weight around more than it could in 2016. Because there's this tendency, I think, to boil things down to personal relationships.
Totally, yes.
You know, I don't doubt that, you know, maybe they're friendly or something. But, like, part of it is, like, people are scared of them, man. Like, I talk to these staffers, like, I'm not saying that they, you know, love Bernie or anything, but it's like they don't want to be on the receiving end of a mailer from Bernie to his extraordinarily, you know, dedicated base saying this guy is the reason you can't have, you know, whatever progressive measure it is. So the dynamics have changed just with respect to Sanders. And then, of course, this extraordinary, I was listening to a guest that you had on before, I can't remember who it was that was saying this, but this might be like unprecedented in modern history, maybe even in capitalism generally. Like the speed with which the unemployment has changed is like, I don't think I've ever seen, I don't know there's ever been anything like that in Western history. The unemployment line just being a vertical.
Harrison, maybe Pete Harrison, who's running for Congress.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, literally a vertical line that has even during the Great Depression that didn't happen. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like crazy. And the old saying, the boiling the frog in water. Like there's no time for people to adjust to that reality. So this is something. Tell me what you think with these protests. How much of this, obviously police brutality, extremely, serious thing. But there are a bunch of factors and grievances going on here. And I feel like it would be sort of simplistic to say it's any one thing. Like it seems like there's a lot of things for Americans to be angry about right now. So
I think
I'd be
it's
curious
a combination of the pandemic, unemployment, the straw. It was, I think, the police murder that broke the camel's back. It's very, it's like unbelievable that these protests are happening. In some ways it feels, I haven't been to any of them because I'm not in New York City, but or a major city like DC or something, but I've heard from people, they say that they're very joyous. I had Johanna Fernandez on who said it was, I can't remember the word, but she said something in a way that she's never experienced before. Joyful or joyous or inspiring. I can't remember, but yeah, it feels a little sci-fi-ish.
It's surreal, man.
Yeah.
I mean, people are doing and thinking like this poll blew my, it was like I dropped acid or something. It was just like dissolving all of my understanding of everything. Seeing this poll where the majority of Americans approved of the burning of the police station in Minneapolis, like, wait, what? Like, I'm used to America where half the TV shows are about some cop who is rescuing kids from a child molester or something, and everyone's brain is just annihilated by this onslaught of, cop, like pro-cop story. So I'm thinking, how would anyone ever have the wherewithal, given that, to think, like, you know what I mean? And apparently I was wrong, because people could.
In fact, I think more needs to be written about that. Isn't it? It is a bit crazy, and I feel like there's
insane.
Discussion of that. That's a huge coup, like a huge ideological political coup. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Look at it this way. Like that in itself, it may not be the sort of organization you need. I mean, I think the movement is sort of inchoate.
Yeah,
but
totally.
If you're from the perspective of someone that's sort of running a society, some rich guy, an investor, like the investor class, you look at that and I would be panicking because it's like, whoa, we don't have any legitimacy anymore. Like we have to do something. And it looks like they're not going to be able to do much more than that $1,200 check. So I don't know. I think anything can happen between now. I'm done making predictions, basically.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Totally. Yeah. No. And going back really quickly to, here's another question. And then Biden
and Venezuela. Yeah. No bueno. He has commented on this. He recognized Guaido. I wrote about this in my story about
as did Engel, right?
Engel, yeah, and that's pretty crazy. I mean, there was no election. Whatever you think of Maduro, whose right is it of ours to just declare someone the sovereign leader of a country? That's crazy, And Biden is on board with that. That's another interesting case because you see, I believe AOC came out and opposed that. I know Bernie actually never recognized Guaido.
Yeah, no.
AOC ended up sort of dithering afterwards. But knowing the people, in these staffers, like there's a lot of fighting and horse trading going on. That sort of friction is good and indicates that there is not consensus on these things in the way that there once was. And so again, Biden will try to have a very hawkish policy with respect to that. But honestly, I'm not enormously worried about it because when unemployment is at 25%, do you think anyone gives a shit about, like, they're saying, look at the propaganda that you see to try to induce into you the belief that we should go and overthrow a government.
Right.
They don't have enough health care. They don't have enough food. This is all stuff that's becoming increasingly true of the United States.
Right.
I was tweeting as a joke. I was like, look at these lines for a referendum in Venezuela. This is unacceptable. We need to go in there. And this was just the line in Kentucky for people to try to vote in their primary. You know what I mean? So I think it'd be a pretty tough sell for a Biden government to get people on board with a conflict. I mean, Trump hasn't been able to do it, you know, and they've obviously been chomping at the bit to do something.
And that guy, remember the Bay of Piglets? That guy, Jordan Goudreau, who was like live tweeting a failed coup.
These like Instagram, like special forces,
oh my God, that guy was
success
amazing,
win guys, like amazing. Yeah, that was another thing. It was almost like burn after reading, or worse than that, really. It was like, how is it? I remember looking at it, having that same sense of the dropping acid and being like, wow, I used to write fiction. If I ever got to start writing fiction, I'd worry a lot less about, I'd worry a lot less about what's plausible.
I know, it's like over the top.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was talking about Christian Parenti. I was trying to remember, someone was like, you couldn't make it up. It's like too didactic, but that's a different story about the gang truce, which is a really fascinating story.
I look back, I know a lot of retired, Intel guys. And so I started looking back at the history because I was kind of curious. I became obsessed with ideas. Is stuff way worse, or was I naive about it? Do you know what I mean? And so looking back, like with the actual Bay of Pigs, there was insane stuff with that too. So my understanding is we were supposed to, Kennedy wanted to provide air support. And the reason that he didn't is because they fucked something up where they didn't do the timing right. And they were operating on like East Coast time instead of what Havana time would have been. And so their air support would have come in an hour late. So I don't know that that's the same as Instagram influencers, like special forces influencers invading, but that's pretty crazy, you know?
Yeah. And he also wants to, he's really into Richard Branson, I think. No, he provided security, this guy, at a Richard Branson concert in Colombia that was like for Venezuela. And then they started after the Parkland shooting because Jordan.
Yeah. I have a great story about this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were going to say, because I became obsessed with these guys, because this is sort of overlaps with my national security stuff. So I started looking at, he had a business venture that he described as the Netflix of like school security, where he said and the reason it was Netflix school security was that every parent could pay something like $10 a month or $5 a month or whatever it was, to have a former like Navy SEAL in like plain clothes, like be at each school. And like apparently this guy is going to like, literally, yeah. And he's going to he's going to dive into action as soon as they detect a shooter, this Navy SEAL, who's going to have automatic weapons and he'll never snap or do something crazy because it doesn't happen in these underfunded schools, but he's going to be there just waiting for when there's a shooter so he can take him out. And so that was this guy. That was one of this guy's. That was the guy this was the guy that led the invasion. What's crazy is the amount of indoctrination. If you look at what's been reported on it, this guy thought they were going to land on the beachhead and they'd be greeted as liberators, as they said about Iraq, and all the people were going to come out and welcome them and everything. Like, that's obviously idiotic, but they're essentially just repeating a lot of what you hear here in Washington about what they think about Venezuela, So it's insane, but it's not really that far off of the sort of like propaganda line.
Greeted as liberators. Brian is telling us that Trump now has 200 judicial nominations approved.
Not good.
Okay, not good.
There's this tendency, I hate this, to only focus on the executive. I guess I'm a little guilty of this because I'm a national reporter, but like only focus on the White House and SCOTUS. But there's so much more than that. And I hope the progressives can see that, because when you look at it in terms outside of that, you realize that, wow, things are not quite the same as they were, as I said, during the Bush administration. And, one example of this is, these judicial I think they're lifetime appointments, and they have, enormous amount of power because the, courts kick things up and appeal, and, they decide things. So it's a whole lot more going on than just the SCOTUS and what's going on in the White House.
Yeah. What about your Antifa story? I got to have you on regularly, because there's,
I would love to. Yeah. So I was given what's called a situation report. A friend of mine in the FBI gave me a situation report that showed that they couldn't find any intelligence to suggest that Antifa had any involvement in any of the violence that took place in the Washington field office. That's like the most prestigious of the different field offices for the FBI, because it has oversight of DC, parts of Maryland, Virginia, basically everything that's federal government. They're in charge. Very important region, obviously, that they are going to have a lot of resources to track and do counterterror stuff. So they weren't able to find any intel on it. And I mean, come on, with the president saying what he's saying, you're telling me they're not going to be looking for that too? I mean, we know they were looking for it because it's in the intel report. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't find intel about violent groups. They did. They found intelligence about far right groups plotting to target federal law enforcement and kill them, with the explicit plan being that in the confusion and pandemonium, the police would think it was actually the left wing that was doing it, which, by the way, I think should encourage in people humility when they see reporting about so-called Antifa doing certain things, because this is explicitly a strategy of neo-Nazi and other far-right groups, is to try to do stuff that is going to appear unpopular to the general public, and in that confusion to try to essentially do false flags. I mean, they've described, not just in this intelligence report, other ones from Department of Homeland Security and others, that is a plan for them to do. So I hope that media is looking carefully into this stuff that's happening to be sure when they say that this looks like Antifa,
right,
that is in fact what happened, because there's a motive for the far right to do that.
I wonder if we should have like a policy of like not commenting. I know this sounds ridiculous, but like this whole discussion of violence and like there's such a big difference between between vandalism and violence, and we use those terms interchangeably, which is a problem. And then there's like all this condemnation, and you don't even know whether the person's an agent provocateur, or
right.
I kind of feel like there should be some memo signed or something where it's like, we're just not going to comment on or condemn.
I think so, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
yeah. So talking to my friends in the intelligence community, who, by the way, are not fans of Antifa by any means,
right.
I can't find anyone in the FBI that's going to say, I support this kind of stuff. So it's not that they're sympathetic. They hate these groups. It's just that they have, some basic competency in counterterror stuff, where they understand these are autonomous groups, that there's no formal list, it's like Anonymous, when they would always get the news media to be like, oh my God, Anonymous, like send it, not understanding that it is just a sort of label. It's kind of almost like, not to equate the two, but when ISIS claims credit for something, they had no operational contact with. Anyone can claim credit for anything. These are not, coherent groups. And the FBI understands that, because their whole job is worrying about asymmetric conflict and counterterror groups and things.
Right.
So, when I talk to them about stuff like this, they just say, like, they kind of laugh. They're more reasonable than the media in a lot of cases, because they'll say, well, how the hell do we know if this was Antifa? And in some cases, even I'm kind of like, well, that's a good point, So for example, they're talking about Madison, Wisconsin. They, tore down a statue of a abolitionist, and everyone was laughing. There's a great own that Antifa would tear down an abolitionist statue and destroy it. I would, wait and see and find out what the law enforcement investigation is able to find, because that would, if the right wing is smart, they'd be doing some things like this to try to smear the left.
Yeah.
And indeed, we have intelligence beyond just the report I was given. I mentioned DHS. There's a whole, wealth of information to suggest that this is the far right groups, unlike these autonomous left groups, they actually do have some measure of organization and coordination. Unfortunately.
Right.
And I mean, they, murdered 2 federal law enforcement officers. I think they seriously injured a third. This is a crazy story, barely any reporting. This guy, part of an elite unit, I think it's called, I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's an elite Air Force, kind of like special forces security team. Went with another person. There's a second person. I believe there might've been a third person involved. He killed, he created his own silencer, had a machine gun that he put together himself. And they were driving around California, murdering law enforcement using the silencer, hoping that since they silenced it, they wouldn't be able to locate where the bullets were originating from, and that they'd end up killing protesters and blaming Antifa for it. The guy did that. He planned that. He had expertise. This is very scary when you have someone with, I'm used to the Pepes that I assume are just confused kids in, a basement and maybe have some kind of issues or whatever. By the time you get to somebody who's special forces in an elite unit that, presumably, as I said before, has a place in society, doing this stuff and doing it professionally, because it's not easy to do. Someone like me, if I were to pick up a gun, I have no idea how to. A lot of factors involved in something like this. That's pretty scary, and I can tell you that folks in the intelligence community, they themselves, because they worry a lot about what's called counterintelligence. They're always worried about things leaking. They're always worried about, spies from foreign countries or, whatever it may be. They don't want things going on in their own domain. There was another case in Europe. Someone leaked highly classified documents to a neo-Nazi group, and this was an American service member. I can tell you within the Defense Department and, within FBI, they're a lot more worried about this stuff than the news media is talking about it. Whether or not the news media wants to talk about these far right groups. This is a major counterintelligence concern that they have. And so, as I just said, we've seen, cops killed by them. We've seen classified information leaked. We don't know. We don't have a great idea yet of what the classified information was. But my question is, if neo-Nazis are getting this stuff, why do they want classified information? That's a pretty sophisticated operation to be able to do. What kind of information do they want? Why do they want it? This is all really scary. I think this could escalate a lot. Unfortunately, I'm working on this right now, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot in the way of sort of investigation about like what they're up to.
Yeah, I saw someone on yesterday. I might as well come out and say it in a minute. My dad is an MSNBC viewer.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, I know, it's very cute. He's not a boomer. He's great politics. He's a little annoying on the Russia stuff, but anyway, it's just funny because he's usually real contrarian. But his thing is like, however they have to get Trump, it's fine. I'm like, yeah, but it's not going to work, sadly. Anyway, but I saw a woman talking about this with Chris Hayes last night about extreme violent, the right-wing extremism. Extremists, as she said. Sometimes she said extremists, but she also said extremists, which is interesting. But yeah, it is weird. It's not a bigger story.
They literally killed cops. This is the whole thing that the right wing is always worrying about.
Why is that not a story?
Picture if literally any Antifa, a Muslim person, a black person, this would be like martial law, literally. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Trump was talking about bringing out the active military. That's what they can't.
I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, although there's nothing wrong with that because there are a lot of conspiracies. But like, why isn't that a bigger deal?
I'm at a loss because I thought it would be, and I'll tell you, my sources within the intelligence community and law enforcement, they're asking me that question too, because they are taking it more seriously than I don't know. I don't know what it is because it's like I'm not making this up. You can look this up. In Europe, the group that you leaked the classified information to, the service member was part of a satanic neo-Nazi group. They're self-described Satanists. This is like tailor-made.
Yeah.
This is like tailor-made for the QAnon. You know what I mean? Like it's like, how do you make that up? It's in the criminal complaint. You can look it up. And it's just like a sort of back page story. I don't know. I wish I knew the answer to that. Because I don't even see how this benefits the establishment for them to ignore this stuff. Because this is a serious threat to their own stability. So
right on right violence, as Steve Schlesser says. Yeah. I
have no idea. I just don't know.
I know. And it's such this is something like one of those things that liberals would get excited about that doesn't that does not require any criticism of Democrats. Right. You know what I mean? Like, like they usually, this is one of those things they usually get behind. It's so weird.
Right. Very weird, right? Well, that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like wave my hand and be like, hey guys, because you talk to these, I mean, I can tell you within the intelligence community that a lot of them are frustrated because they don't have the resources they need. I had someone in Department of Homeland Security, a very senior guy, who's telling me about how he would love to be doing counterterror against the neo-Nazis. And I believe him. I think this is sincere because this person he's not going on MSNBC to, impress everyone. And I asked him, I was like, well, so why can't you? He's like, we're focused on immigration and all this bullshit that's coming from the administration. And the guy's not even like left wing. He's like, yeah, he's against illegal immigration. And he's saying to me, but what's more important? Someone who overstayed their visa or a neo-Nazi? Like, come on, and so, but that's the resources are being poured into these highly political kind of a lot of Trumpy things, not just Trumpy things, but then there's other dumb, ways that resources don't get allocated properly. But what we end up having is sort of the worst of both worlds, where we have a almost big brother like intelligence community that can do all sorts of amazing things, and it never seems to be applied to anything that we might be sympathetic to it being used for.
Yeah, is this like a Trump thing? I mean,
certainly the politicized focus on immigration, that is definitely, and I don't, I'm not soft-pedaling Obama. He had a lot of bad stuff too, but that's a large part of it. Yeah. But these systems are trash too.
I mean more like the silence around this issue. Is Trump like, don't say anything bad about, but what am I saying? Because it's not like the media, the mainstream media or liberal media is it's taking orders from Trump.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So certainly Trump doesn't like it. And I know from people, that work this stuff, yeah, they don't want to. They certainly know the White House. The White House is your boss if you're high up in the intel community. So you don't want to make too much of a thing about it. But it's getting so bad. that like FBI Director Wray himself said that like neo-Nazis are the chief, domestic terror concern right now. He said that. That's Trump's own pick. And I really think it's the media, to be honest, because it's like, I'm not saying the government's handling it great. Certainly Trump is handling it very poorly. Right. But like, this is I would think this is just a meatball for you to knock out of the park in terms of like a really shocking story that is going to, upset people, but also I would think one that, the corporations are not going to be, I mean, I would assume corporations don't want this kind of crazy instability that literal Nazis are going to bring. So I wish I had a better answer for you. I often have inklings, but I don't even know. I can't even hypothesize what the reason for this is. It's
like a real, is it like absolute left punching hatred of the left? That doesn't seem.
I don't see how this helps, how it would sort of enhance the position of the left to go after Nazis,
No, right. No, sorry. I'm saying like, is their focus more on leftists than on, that seems sociopathic. Well, some of them are sociopaths, but that just seems
I think you're right. Right. Because the meme is rioting and broken stuff and some violence. That's Antifa. That's the meme. So you're right about that. But Nazis are an already extant meme in people's heads, right? Like you don't have to lay any sort of narrative groundwork for people to understand that these guys are scary. I would think.
Yeah. Is it like Jonathan Chait's of the world being like, no, the real, we gotta focus on the left? I mean, I don't even know.
I guess, I mean, it would be misleading to say that there isn't kind of, concern about, and, people do tweet out there like, once again, another neo-Nazi, like, it's not the activist stuff.
Sure.
Like, I do see that. It's not nothing, but it's just nowhere near the...
When did this happen? The murder of the, with the silencers.
This is what's so crazy. This is all happening in real time. I'm being given stuff about concerns they have completely separate from all this. And as I'm typing it up, I'm seeing, so the leaked classified information, I believe that was late last week. The murder of the cops, I believe that was just 2 weeks ago or so. I mean, this is all within the last month.
Huge. Like, why hasn't that been on the cover of Time magazine? Not to sound like 1,000 years old, but why hasn't that been in the headlines?
Has it?
I've never, like you were saying, you felt like you were on acid when you looked at the polls about people supporting the burn, police. Like, that's how I feel about this right now. Like,
right, exactly. That welcome to my world. And I mean, you talk to the intel guys, and they're the same way. They're like, "What the hell's going on?"
But like you said, the whole meme. It's not like this would requires any narrative, like infrastructural building. Like Nazis are bad, neo-Nazis are bad. Like, also, the Trump haters should be embracing this because they could so easily tie this to how Trump has emboldened this.
Right. I don't, and all I see is like kind of some stuff about Ukraine and a oversight. And I don't want to suggest like it is bad if you fire, an oversight guy. I'm not soft pedaling that, but it's like
proportionality. Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, so maybe it's just that MSNBC, they already have their little. You know what I mean? Like they've already got their sort of lineup of kind of NatSec people are going to have on to talk about why, something that happened in Ukraine was bad, or Inspector General getting fired. Maybe they're just already locked into that stuff. I don't know. I can barely even speculate.
So I can't really think of. I know. I feel like I'm like going crazy or hallucinating. Like this feels like a dream.
To what extent, tell me this, because I obsess about this stuff and I read the sort of law enforcement publications and things. To what extent had you seen these things about these Nazi groups in the media? The killing of the cops, the leak of classified information, that kind of stuff.
Not honestly. I heard it on, wait, Ken, did you retweet that you're on here right now? Yeah, you did. Okay, good. Just making sure. I was checking Twitter to see if anyone, okay, now we got it. Awesome. Okay. I honestly had only seen it yesterday, I think. Like I heard some vague thing about like law enforcement, but I really think that like it was yesterday and I just kind of heard it on Chris Hayes. And I remember thinking like, okay, this is some good stuff coming out of MSNBC for a change. Like it wasn't on that, it was not about Russia. It was not about Ukraine. It was not about how, and like, I want to be clear, like Trump is awful on everything, including COVID, but it is the like disproportionate focus on it that is very dangerous. Like,
why aren't the cops mad about this? Like
yeah.
the local, because this is their whole thing. Is like we're besieged. I've literally heard more about the tampon in the drink than I have about the 3 cops.
Yeah, that
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, isn't literally getting murdered by a special forces guy with a silenced machine gun? Like, doesn't that seem like a? I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I'm trying to jump up and down and get everyone to care about it.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
Can't there just be some? I don't know. Like, there should just be some like bombardment of this story. I mean, it is insane. So when is your piece coming out that you did on this? Like, what are their names? Do we know any of their names?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Because I mean, isn't that weird also that we don't like that these names aren't
exactly
there, like the name of the person who did it or the name of the person who was killed? Like, shouldn't that be? Right.
I mean, my best guess is just that they already have their structured discussion of, it's COVID, it's firing of some sort of oversight thing, it's Russia, Ukraine, that kind of thing, and maybe that's just the order of the day, and they're not gonna tweak it, because I mean, I guess there definitely has been a lot of far right stuff in the past, but like this is a dramatic escalation. Maybe they just don't know yet how to.
Maybe they don't want to scare people, or they don't want to create copycats.
That could maybe they just don't want to incite any sort, or not incite, but like those kind of places, they seem to want discontent in a very narrow way. You know what I mean? Like they want the kind of anger that is going to get you to like vote in the presidential election, but not really going to get you invested in like, holy shit, this is like a battle between literal fascism and like civilized liberal society. Maybe that's too.
Or maybe they're afraid. Okay, now you got me. Maybe they are afraid that it's like instead of to own the libs, it's like to own the leftists. Like they don't want to give leftists the rhetorical gift of being able to be like, it's socialism or barbarism, Nazism or
exactly, because what we're talking about now with neo-Nazis is like we're talking the collapse of institutions and literally like collapse of the legitimacy of the state. Maybe that's too like spicy for their kind of thing. Is kind of like we want to do a congressional investigation of Trump. It's all very procedural. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of, I don't want to say small beans. That's not quite the word.
No, but
it's contained. It's contained within the system. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I mean, I don't know.
And it's also weird because at the same time, I'm often annoyed by how much liberals will kind of virtue signal, but emptily gesture, condemn, white supremacy and white supremacists, which should be condemned, but, do that while they sign a bill that is just terrible for poor people, people of color, as long as they're calling. But this is like weird. This is like the opposite of that. It's like,
I'm glad that you have this response because I was starting to go insane thinking like, am I like hallucinating these headlines because no one's talking? And I was starting to wonder if I was crazy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now you're having the identical response to what I had. So it's like, makes me feel more safe.
Wow. I mean, what about like Right Wing Watch and like what are the other places? Do they still exist, Right Wing Watch?
Oh yeah, they're good.
Are they
for sure?
Yeah, and then the poverty
Jared Hall just talked about this.
Yeah.
The different like right wing groups that have talked about. They definitely like, I don't want to take away from them. I just mean it has not entered the sort of digestive tract of the really big places that reach the millions of people that watch and think about these things,
Like, why shouldn't there be New York Times headlines about this?
Right.
Just a news.
The time every
tape.
Right. I mean, you see the Times. It's always Jared Kushner's meeting with this guy or something. It's very White House centric in a sort of palace intrigue sort of way where it's focused on individual. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't even read a lot of it because I can't. Like, I read the Wall Street Journal because I want to like I just need information. It's not even that I want something I agree with. I just want info. You know what I mean? And there's a lot I don't learn from. Right. There's a lot I just don't learn from the Times because they're stuck on this sort of this sort of track that they've created for themselves of the kinds of things that they tend to. I just hate the White House centers. I mean, obviously, Trump is terrible and responsible for a lot of this stuff, but it's like you got to get into the guts of these
or
institutions
it's
to
just
figure
totally
out.
superficial and makes no lasting change, and it's just like kind of emotional and ritualistic, and wow.
Right. It almost feels like he's leading the media along by its nose, but with just tweet after tweet. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like,
we should never be talking about his tweets, honestly, just
right.
because it's what he wants.
Right. And clearly, right? And no one can accept that because I don't know. I guess he's certainly dumb in a lot of ways, but it's like I've never really believed in like general intelligence. Like I think that people can be like good at some things and really bad. You know, or certainly I'm like that. And I see that in Trump, where it's like preternaturally good at leading the media along, and then really bad. Yeah, and then awful at like pretty much everything else.
No,
you know what I mean?
For a crowd like a stand-up.
Yeah,
comedian.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, he is. Yeah, he's. I think it's actually it does a big disservice to the anti-Trump movement to not acknowledge that, because you have to look at why someone's successful in the way that they are. Yeah, your enemy.
I talk about this with you understand. I talked about so much to left. I have some leftists sometimes like, why are you friends with the ICE guy? Why are you talking to ICE people? This kind of thing. And it's like, if you really want to reform or improve or dismantle or whatever you want to call it, the institution, you've got to get in there. And I'm sorry, you have to get your hands dirty. You just do. And it's really hard for people to understand. And I get it, because these are gross institutions and awful, terrible things. But like, I don't see any other way.
What's the alternative?
Which
doesn't mean everyone has to do it. Not everyone has to do this work. But like, there are people who will do it, and I think it's a positive. And in many cases, I mean, it's just like, that's a whole other discussion. The difference between like catering to racism versus like actually trying to convert people who are winnable.
Right. Exactly.
Like Bayard Rustin thought that we had to do that. We talked to major hot controversial guest on Useful Idiots. I guess I shouldn't leak it. I'll tell. Matt Taibbi doesn't like. You'll find out soon enough. But in an interview we did, Bayard Rustin came up, the gay Black March on Washington behind the scenes organizer, who, because he was a gay communist, basically couldn't be the face of it. Not that it was one person, obviously, but anyway, he said that. He was like, there are not enough Negroes in the United States to, we have to build coalitions, which include obviously white communists, because he was a communist, and then he's like, as well as liberals and moderates, people he did not have a lot of love for, but he was just kind of a realist about coalition building. And anyway, that's a whole other issue that drives me a bit crazy.
I'm looking forward to that episode.
Yeah, on Friday. Well, wow. Oh my gosh. You gotta come on again. And when is your piece gonna come out? Do you have any idea on that?
I don't want to mislead you, because it never seems to come things never seem to be ready when I think they're going to, but it's soon.
Okay, soon.
I'll let you know when it is.
Yeah, definitely. And this is I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but we have to, the people are speaking. And to be fair, the question is, what are Ken's thoughts on Katie's bolder than usual lip gloss? Feel free to
I have to take a closer look, because I'm just on my phone.
See it? It's pretty bright.
That is bold, but I think she pulls it off. It's not.
Thank you.
Not something that anyone can do, but it works for you.
And big spoiler, I told people on Periscope that I would tell them the socialist feminists who gifted me the lipstick that I'm wearing. And Stila Cosmetics, feel free. I will take your
color
sponsorship.
called?
It is called. Oh my God.
I love the cute names they always have.
Eso, as in kiss in Spanish. And it was given to me by none other than, wait for it, Stay All Day liquid lipstick. It is an amazingly has a lot of longevity. Anyone want to guess? Anyone want to guess who the socialist feminist who gave this to me was? I'll take guesses for free. You don't even have to pay me, and I'll read your answers. I'll give you guys a couple seconds.
Amy Therese.
No. That would be an expensive package from us, from the land down under. Her initials are LF. Liza Featherstone.
Featherstone, yay.
Thank you, Liza. Yeah. So, and on that note, no. Anything else that you want to talk about? Because I feel bad, because I could talk like you're such a good. And I got to have you on again. I'm curious about your background. Like I found that interesting.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Not really. Yeah, just I'll have my story out and I'll ping you when that's ready.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't mean to cut out, but my battery's almost dead. So
okay, perfect. It was meant to be then. Thank you so much, Ken Klippenstein. Follow him on Twitter at just is it Ken or is it K?
Ken Klippenstein. The only no other ones to mistake me for. So
yeah,
it's nice and easy. And
find him at the Nation. And thank you so much again. This has been great. Thank you so much, guys, for coming to this show. Still playing around with the time. Curious what people think about Wednesday nights. We'll see. Still playing around with that.
All right. So it was really nice getting to meet you
too.
After I feel like so many people I sort of feel like I know from Twitter, but I never actually have chatted with. So that's cool.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, take it easy.
Bye. Wow, I'm so glad. That was a great interview. I gotta say, I was very excited to have Ken on, and I'd want to have him on for a while, but he was even more interesting than I thought he would be. I had prepared all these screenshots. I just wanted to give a shout out because, as people probably know, one of the people who hold on, let me see something. One of the people who I wanted to talk about, who we talked about last week, was Tom Watson. Now, I don't know if I can share an incognito window. Let me just see if I can do that. Hold on. Let me try one thing. Tom Watson, of course, worked for Eliot Engel, who was defeated recently by Jamaal Bowman, which was really a wonderful thing to see happen, a wonderful thing to behold in their congressional race. And, it couldn't have happened to a worse guy. But let me just see if this works. Hold on. Let me see something. Will this work? Share screen. Chrome. Will it work? Oh, it looks like it will. Yes. Okay. So let's just take a look-see at some of the Tom Watson tweets, shall we? So Tom Watson, again, worked for Eliot Engel, and Eliot Engel went down, was defeated by, as people probably know, Jamaal Bowman, who was an Eliot Engel, a corrupt right-wing on foreign policy, extremely right-wing hawk, was endorsed by Randy Weingarten, which is interesting, of the teachers union, because you'd think, because Jamaal Bowman is a public school principal and public school teacher, Randy Weingarten represents, is it UFT or AFT? One of those two. Randy Wein. Okay. Anyway, I can't remember if it's UFC or AFT. So you'd think she'd have some love for the public school teacher, but she's actually herself never been a teacher, which is interesting. So AFT, thank you, over Beb. AFT. So Tom Watson, Nando and I talked about him last week. He's endlessly entertaining. He's a very passive aggressive guy who pretends to be a unity guy. So I just want to share some of his pretty breathtaking, amazing tweets. Let me see. Okay, let's see. Where are we? Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to. All right. So I've said this before. Don't wager against 32BJ, which is an SEIU local. Again, needless to say, he did not win. And it seemed like it was a good idea to wager against them. Wow. He tweeted that Tuesday, the day he lost. No, gonna ignore that. I need to figure out a way to work this so that I can go from window to window. In an easy way. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah, I think I have to put these all into a doc or something. But so he's obviously very pro Engel because he worked for him. Hold on. Yeah, I definitely need to have someone do this with me. It's just too hard to coordinate it. So I'll have to do this again. I'll have to do this I'll pre-record it, or I'll do a video or something. It's too hard to do it this way. Sorry, that's pretty anticlimactic. How can I end? Anything? Anyone want me to? Any questions that anyone has? Great interview, I would say. I got to go out on a better, more professional. I know, I'll take them screenshots. Yeah, but like, okay, that's a good idea. But then this is StreamYard, right? This thing that, oh, thank you, Anti-Corporatist. Yeah, this thing lets you do an application window. So I guess I'll take screenshots and then do it that way. I'm not sure. I mean, it is very frustrating because I really want to show you guys all of this stuff. I could put links in and you guys click on it. We can all look at it together. Let's see how that works. Let me know. Okay. So tell me how this works. Okay. Tell me if this works. Ready? Here's one of the things I love from this guy from the Watson. How easy is it to click on that when I put that in? Is that an easy link or no? I don't know because I'm not watching it on YouTube right now. Oh, no. Thanks. I'll do a slideshow. I will. But right now, how easy is it? It's easy? Okay, so look at that tweet. So that's Eliot Engel. I stand with my friend John and Mayor Bowser. I shouldn't do that voice. And someone tweets back, fortune's always hiding. Tweets response, if you didn't have a primary, you wouldn't care, which is a reference to, of course, Eliot Engel being caught on a hot mic saying twice, if I didn't have a primary, I wouldn't care, to Ruben Diaz Jr., wanting to speak to at a conference, at a press conference about Black Lives Matter. And it was a pretty unfortunate thing. But anyway, so that's him saying, that's someone criticizing basically Eliot Engel. And then you scroll down more, Tom Watson in his in what he thinks is an own tweets, that seems unfair. And it's a photo of John Lewis with Eliot Engel, which is not that, it doesn't change anything about the fact that he was caught on a hot mic saying, if I didn't have a primary, I wouldn't care. So some guy, Jonathan Richter, replies, that photo is from 2015, Tom. And Tom writes, yeah, commitment to social justice goes back many years, not just late arrival. Thanks for pointing out. And hashtag NY16. Let's see what else we got. Hold on. I got that one. Don't worry. We're going to go on to a whole new Tom Watson thing. Like, I found this whole thing. I realized, does anyone know what Tom Watson has a certain phrase that he's really fond of. It's a great passive aggressive one. And I just found it, but I wanted to stick first with some more Engel stuff. Oh, this is the best one. Ready? Guys, are you ready for this? Hold on. I can report. Okay, so Chris Sommerfeld tweeted out, asked for a response to Cuomo's Engel endorsement. Jamaal Bowman, New York, tells New York Daily News that the two longtime New York politicians are, quote unquote, scared and throwing everything they've got at me because they don't like having their power threatened. So Tom Watson tweets, this is June 17th. Tom Watson tweets, I can report that neither NY Gov Cuomo nor Rep Eliot Engel is scared, in quotes. Now that did not, I'm going to have to say, this is a kind of overused term, but that tweet did not age well. I think we can all agree with that. Then you have a kind of run in the mill retweeting of Schumer endorsing him. By the way, the Congressional Black Caucus also endorsed Engel over Bowman, which is Shonda, as we like to say. Tom Watson also tweeted this, and I guess he really set himself up. Oh, yes, this is a very good, important. Thank you. Yes. This was an amazing moment, right? That's true. Engel spoke with freaking Pamela Geller in the Times Square rally during Israeli bombing of Gaza. What else do we got? Then he randomly tells us this weird thing, which just seems like not that interesting, but Tom's gonna Tom. Watts is gonna Watts. Hold on. So there's this where Tom Watson tells us, I guess because Rep. Eliot Engel prepared to vote in Riverdale. There's a photo of that. And Watson goes, the school was named for David A. Stein, co-founder of the Riverdale Press, an alma mater of mine. The Riverdale Press is an alma mater, or the school is the alma mater. I assume he means the school. I still can't get over. I've said it before. Don't wager against. He doesn't talk like that. Oh, this is a good one, guys. This is a good one. This tweet did not age well. Am I right? Look at this. Did I see that one? For those keeping score at home on New York 16, Andrew Cuomo, Hillary Clinton, Hakeem Jeffries, Ted Gillibrand, Whip Clyburn, Nita Lowey, Rep. Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler, Rep. Maxine Waters. That's a good list. For those keeping score at home, that's the score of people who need to apologize to everyone, including the people who live in that district. And that's just the starting 9 for Rep. Eliot Engel. God, that did not end well at all. Am I right? All these people have a lot of egg on their face, on their faces. Okay, so I mean, Tom Watson is very craven and again pretends to be a unity guy. But here's what I want to talk to you guys about, and I can't really. I'm gonna have to do a mashup of this because there are too many. I can't possibly. I don't have the speed or wherewithal or strength or patience to go through all of this. But I noticed that Tom Watson likes to say "oh my" a lot. Oh my, and I was like, wait, oh my. Let me look this up. So here we go. Ready? July 9, 2019. Oh my, is Watson's response to Liza Sabater tweeting, I'm left of Bernie. Scott I don't know what this is. I don't know who Scott Adams is. You should try it. Maybe you can talk some sense to yourself. I'm left of Bernie, so check your facts and try. I don't know what this is talking about. Ignore that. The point is that Tom Watson said, oh my, in that context. Another tweet was, that was, oh my. He said that was, oh my. Then when someone said FDR, he hates Bernie with a passion. So I guess David Sirota quoted Bernie, who had said, I welcome their hatred, Franklin Roosevelt, on those who attack the democratic social agenda. Tom Watson thought that would be a good idea to tweet that. Tom Watson is a major coward and hides behind blocks and likes to tweet about people behind blocks. It's really quite pathetic. He just does a screen grab of people he himself has blocked. I'm one of those people. So he tweets, FDR was a liberal, a gray one. He welcomed the hatred of conservatives. This is rather well-documented history. Wishful thinking on my part that the Sanders campaign would cease making things up. I don't know what he thinks they made up. So someone named Good Fundles Brian, Omar Minaya Fan, says FDR is the greatest president in American history and was a full-on socialist, probably left of Sanders. And Tom Watson goes, ha ha, oh my, so many good biographies out there. I can't stand the ha, oh my. Then he tweets about Jimmy Dore. Oh my, some folks are turning on Senator Sanders. This criticism seems a bit shrill. Then he writes, I don't know what context. De Blasio, the rebel. Oh my. I don't know what he's talking about. Then someone, again, another coward, this guy, Sen 2011, whose handle is you're a Trumpist if you're not supporting Biden. He, again, the coward that he is, tweeted out a screenshot of Megan Day, who was a excellent journalist, writer at Jacobin. And he said, this asshole who Tom Watson responded to, described Megan thusly: rent-to-own heiress, says the European ethno-nationalism is a new thing. Never mind the centuries of racism and colonialism. It's just a stupid thing. But anyway, Tom Watson goes, oh my, is this real? We're talking Europe here. Yes, that Europe. Oh my God, he's such a corny guy. Another thing, this is from July 2019. They think Bernie is still a thing. And he writes, oh my. CNN, then he retweets someone who says, CNN reporting Joe Biden about to jump in. Both he and Sanders consistently lead polling. Kamala Harris says of two white men in their 70s leading polls after the year of the women in 2018. It's early. I wouldn't hang my hat on that. And Tom Watson retweets that and says, "Oh my," and has the eyeballs, whatever that emoji is. Then Jennifer Epstein tweets, "This afternoon in Columbus, Joe Biden will speak on gun violence with Shannon Watts, Moms Demand, Chris Brown of Brady Buzz, and Crystal Turner, gun violence survivor from Columbus, per his campaign." And guess what Tom tweets? "Oh my!" exclamation point. Something in June 27, 2019, there was some Google trend about Bernie Sanders and about the names of people Googled after a debate, and it showed, I guess, Kamala Harris was doing well. And he writes, "Oh my." It's a double. Then Edward Isaac Dovere, who is an absolute scum of the earth, whose wife gets a lot of money for her theater from Bloomberg, whose mom is an editor or a journalist at this awful Islamophobic rag called Al Jaminer. And this guy, Edward Isaac Dovere, whatever, he likes going after people, attacking them, and he lies. I mean, he did a totally dishonest thing about David Sirota. I can't believe this guy is still employed. Like, he and Joy Ann Reid should be in the same not employable, shouldn't feel comfortable showing their faces publicly thing. So Edward Isaac Dovere tweets, "Biden hires Sanders 2016 press secretary Simone D. Sanders." No relation, obviously. And Tom Watson tweets, "Oh my!" exclamation point. Also fabulous hire. Oh, then we have Pocahontas, refusing to shake Bernie Sanders' hand because she's basically lied about him. And guess what? Tom Watson tweets a clip of that and writes, "Oh my, wow." Okay, then again, Tom Watson is kind of obsessed with David Sirota, who rightfully said, "I think it's now safe to say that Jennifer Rubin is obsessed with Bernie," which she was, and David Sirota does a hashtag, does a kind of a screen grab of all these headlines that she wrote about him. And Tom Watson's response to Sirota pointing out that a reactionary Washington Post opinion writer whose blog there is literally called Right Turn, Tom Watson goes, "Just taking a quick peek to see how a senior Bernie Sanders media staffer is handling top 2 status. And oh my," I really have to make this into a video. Then he tweets about Susan Sarandon saying something critical of Warren, and he writes, "Sarandon now busily attacking Warren. Oh my." He quotes Bernie Sanders and says, "Oh my." I think that's all the oh my's I've collected for right now, but you get the point. Oh, wow, he keep them coming. As recently as June 21st, he tweeted a screenshot of something that Michael Moore said. Michael Moore said he's lost none of his base. He said, "Don't take Trump for granted. Don't get all cocky." Which you would think, if someone who really thinks that Trump is an existential threat, which Tom Watson claims to, you'd think that he would be not begrudge Michael Moore for thinking that Trump is is actually electable. And maybe he overestimated how many people came out to Trump's rally in Tulsa, but that's not really that germane. I think you want to err on the side of caution. But Tom Watson tweets, "Oh my," in response to this Kamala Nation person who wrote, "Has anyone checked on Michael Moore and his epic fail tonight?" Because again, they're glad that. Anyway, all right, that's about it. That's all my oh my's. I'll try to get those organized. I definitely lost a lot of viewers doing that. Understandably, it was kind of a weird segment. Yeah, I think I could make a funny video of this. I have to try to do that. No, Tom Watson is not a bot. I wish he were. Anyway, well, guys, thanks for those of you who stayed. Thanks for sticking around. Megan is a boss. Megan Day. She's an amazing, amazing writer. I have had her on the show. One of my favorite guests. Yeah. Okay. So let me know, leave any comments that you want to leave. I also don't know how to access the earliest examples of my, of the comments, but we'll talk about that later. Okay. Thanks guys. And yeah, any good dirt on Isaac, what's his name? Isaac Edwards Isaacs Dovere, please post here. Thank you, Pepto State, for being Tom Watson's alternate Twitter account. Oh my. Okay. Lost lots of viewers. Oh my, that's funny. Okay. So I will see you guys next week. Okay. Bye, everyone. Oh, shame. I'm going to do shameless. I'm going to shamelessly, encourage people to donate to Patreon. Patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. I hate to do this. But boom. If you bring Lord Fairfax on, I would love to bring Lord Fairfax. That's the full-figured turtle that we talked about in Useful Idiots, but I don't know. Hi, Anthony from Detroit. Bye. Bye, guys. See you next week.